Hello, hello. How we doing? How we feeling? Oh my goodness. Thank you. Appreciate it. Uh, yeah, I'm sad this is gonna be the last Baxter moment too, but it's okay. We'll see him again. We'll see him again another day, another time. Um, Thank you so much for the hydrate. I appreciate it. Oh my goodness. I also made the foolish decision to run TikTok a little bit longer, but it's okay. We're gonna power through. It's gonna be fine. Okay, cool beans, cool beans. My day is going pretty okay. I'm just chilling. That's awesome. That's a lot of amber. Okay. I got my water. I got my backup water. We should be good to go, friends. Okay. Oh, goodness. Our last moment with our boy, with our dude. I just love him. I'm gonna have to try and be better today. Yeah, right now my throat's feeling a lot better. I have a feeling probably an hour and a half into the stream, it'll probably start back up again. I'm trying to make sure that I drink a crap ton of water because I know how much talking and using my voice I'm doing, and I know that's why it's a problem. So essentially, when I hop off stream for the night, I just completely turn off my voice. I'm like, no speaky, sorry. To kind of rest up and get back into things. But yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, Our Life Beginnings and Always, we are currently going through the Baxter moments, so today we'll be planning, and then tomorrow will be And Then Summer Ended. And from there, every Saturday we will be doing a special stream, starting at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, going till whenever the heck we finish. Hopefully it's not more than like 3-4 hours. Hopefully, fingers crossed, but we will see. And yeah, let's hop into planning, shall we? Yep. Put my glasses on too so I can see what the heck I'm reading. Beautiful. Okay, planning. You cozily laid across your bed, lightly dozing in the morning sun. I love my room. I'm gonna miss my room. Look at my little stuffed animals. Okay, focus, Blake. You heard birds singing outside your window and the occasional rush of the wind, but what you were really listening for was your phone. Any minute now. It was a little while later when a vibration cut through the silent bubble of your daydreams. You eagerly sat up and plucked the phone off of the blanket by your side. Hey! A forced, deep voice on the other end answered you with an almost threatening edge to their tone. Blake, do you know who this is? I'm on my way to your house. You better be prepared. Terry, why you being goofy? What is this? What are her eyebrows doing, girl? The situation normally would have been worrying if you hadn't been expecting to hear from your goofiest friend, Terry, or if caller ID hadn't been invented yet. The two of you had important matters to discuss. That's why she was coming over today. Ah, played along with her covert scheme. I do, and I'm ready for your arrival. Good, very good. Now this is a crucial matter of security. Is there anyone else in the room right now who might overhear this conversation? We are too close to the finish line to get our cover blown now. Hi, Grace. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you. Glancing side to side, you observed your surroundings and cupped a hand close to the side of your mouth for added secrecy. No, I'm alone. Our mission is still intact. I knew I could count on my trusty cohort. You can trust me with anything. Oh my goodness, Terry's so goofy. I love her. That I can. Just to be certain, you went towards your bedroom door and poked your head out. You couldn't hear a peep from anywhere, so you plopped back onto your bed. Yep, I can verify that we're all clear. Anyone that's trying to learn our secrets has failed their mission. Excellent, all according to plan. It wasn't hard to understand why Terry was so invested. Tomorrow was Miranda's 19th birthday, and the entire occasion needed to be perfect. Aw, we're planning a birthday? Usually, the Ekerts hosted a party for their kids, but this year was different. Miranda had no clue that you, Terry, and Cove were putting the whole shebang together. Hi, Flutterby. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you. Oh, we're planning a birthday. That's so cute. I'm obsessed. Let's go. The pressure was getting intense. There was less than 24 hours before showtime. Miranda's friends and family were counting on the three of you. Terry dropped her game completely and got to the point. Since you can't drive and I don't have my own ride, do you think your moms would let me borrow their car? My dad can't take us around all day. I don't know. Maybe moms will be cool with that? Oof, that's not good. The strain in Terry's voice wiped your smile away. This wasn't originally a problem. Cove was supposed to be the driver, but his request for time off work only allowed tomorrow for the actual birthday. So you could rely on him to help decorate, but you and Terry were on your own today. Oh shit. We gotta figure out how to get to an actual party supply store. Why are we getting the stuff the day before? This feels very thrown together. I am concerned. Yeah. It seems we've reached the first crisis point. That was fast. We really shouldn't have put this off until the last minute for real, that's what I'm saying. We had no choice. This was the easiest way to make sure Randy never caught on. Okay, I see your point, Terry. But we have no decorations for the party, girl. What are we gonna... She can't discover what we're orchestrating if there's nothing for her to find at all. I stand by that. I mean, I appreciate your commitment to keeping it a secret, but we can't surprise her without the surprise. And besides, I'm thinking way bigger than a bag of streamers we can easily stuff away in a closet. Aw, okay, that's kinda cute. She wants to go all out for Randy's birthday. I want to find something new, something fresh and cool. But what? Terry, I'm not sure what you're even envisioning. What's fresh and cool? Ah, I know. Her party should have a theme. We can make all the food and decorations match. It'll look nice. So even if we didn't get like the physical decorations, shouldn't we have planned out what we wanted to get? Any amount of prior planning would have been fantastic. Seriously, deciding the theme for a party the day before the party. I love Terry, but she has me stressing. Fan the flames of my anxiety, why don't you? Oh no. Okay, day before a party and you want a theme? Gotcha, it'll be fine. What kind of theme? I'm still working that detail out. So we want an unknown themed party. And we're planning it the day the fuck before. Hi, Goldfish. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you. Y'all, I'm stressing. I love Terry, but she's the source of my problems right now. I would have planned this shit so far in advance, found places to hide stuff. I mean, granted, I've never actually planned a surprise party for someone, but come on, a little bit extra planning would have been great. Oh boy. Okay, Terry. Well, keep cooking up your idea, I guess, and I'll try and figure out how the fuck we're getting to the party store? That's fine. We have a little wiggle room left on the clock. My character is way more patient and way more together than I would be about this, for real. Exactly. Now that we have a direction, we'll put our noggins together and figure out the perfect theme. And then we need to get all that stuff for it and put it together in the party room. Your mouth pressed into a hard line. Having a theme wasn't exactly progress. It was just another thing you needed to get done on top of everything else. Aw, that's so good, Goldfish. I'm glad baby can go down the stairs safely. Okay, we want a theme and we want a way of transportation. Oh boy. Okay. You kept that train of thought to yourself and chuckled. This event was going to be a Herculean feat, but you had faith in your friends, and together you'd find a way to make it all work somehow. Oh, and don't forget there's that small problem of how we're even getting to the store. That's non-negotiable. We have to go today. Yeah, I know. We need wheels. I hear you, Terry. This needs to be huge. Miranda's parties used to be big. She always had the best birthday. At least before. Okay, so we want a big themed birthday party, and we need transportation to get the decorations. It's gonna be fine. Yeah. There was no way you could forget Miranda's birthday bashes throughout the years. They were a highlight of your summers. Though, you had no idea that Terry had been attending them for just as long. Ah, I love my friends. You never knew who she was until high school, and it was strange to think that you were so close to meeting so much earlier. And now you are all buddies. Unfortunately, the past couple of years, things had been too difficult for an event on that scale. Everyone was older and 10 times busier during the summer. Terry groaned, understandably getting worked up over that struggle. Miranda doesn't even want any presents. All she asked was for her friends and family to get together. We already have the perfect party room booked. That was supposed to be the hardest part. Everyone from Miranda's parents to you and your friends pooled your money together to rent out an actual event space instead of having it at her house or a public park. Aw, that's cute. For a while now, Miranda had been insisting that she didn't need anything, but none of you could pass up an opportunity to show her how much you all appreciated her. Stop, that's so cute. I love them. It isn't even because she used to have big parties, you know. Even if that never happened before, this has to be as good as it can be. Terry's mumbling grew increasingly more upset. She didn't hide any ounce of her worry. What if this is the last time we celebrate it together? Stop! No, I don't want to think about that. A shiver crept down your spine. Terry's fear wasn't unfounded. Who knew what any of your lives would look like a year from now? Stop. Terry sniffled, her voice cracking with emotion. You couldn't do anything other than helplessly wait at the other end of the call. We need this to be our final big hurrah, just in case it is. Okay, that's a good point. You knew everything would be fine. We'll figure it out. The future may have seemed scary and uncertain, but it could get better rather than worse. Well, Terry sniffled, and her tone quickly regained her usual fire. My dad is about to drive me over, so I have the whole car ride to think about our dilemma. You put your brain to work too, and we'll have this solved, no sweat. Wait, Baxter has a car? Baxter has a car and he loves to be a part of things. Ah, that's right. I can't believe I didn't remember he has a car. Ah, look at that happy face. We fixed it. You're a genius, Blake. Ah, stop. Terry, I love you. Thank you very much. But do you think he would actually give us a lift? I mean, yeah, I don't see why not. I went on a whole, mountain vacation adventure with him. He should be down, I think. I'm pretty sure he'd do it in a heartbeat. For us? More like for you. Mm-hmm. Even though you couldn't see Terry, you could easily imagine the way she was nodding over this new possibility. That is the way. All right, I gotta go. See you soon. The fate of Randy's birthday is up to you, me, and now our remaining hope, the Bee-Man. Bye! I love Terry. You hung up the phone and left it face down on the blanket. You flopped across the bed as your thoughts wandered. You kicked your feet, eager with growing excitement. Miranda was going to have a birthday that she'd never forget in a million years. While you waited, you opened a half-dozen tabs online on your phone and scrolled through various images of party decorations. You kept perusing until a text notification popped up. I'm here. The doorbell rang as your feet hit the floor. You hurried downstairs and opened the front door. Hey, buddy. The party committee meeting is officially in session. Not the party committee meeting. Sliding aside, you gestured for Terry to come on in. She strolled inside and went towards the living room. Then Terry pivoted on her heel and folded her arms, all business. So, I haven't messaged Baxter about all this. We should ask him in person instead of a wall of text. It'd be super rude to hit up someone you barely know to help you do a big favor, you know? It's gotta be face to face that we beg for help. Fingers crossed he's home. We owe it to ourselves and Randy's birthday to try. Yeah, and if he's not there, we can still try something else. This is a start. There's no better time than the present. Let's go. Terry nodded towards the door she just came in through, and you both promptly left the house. Together, you made a beeline for Baxter's condo and rang the doorbell. Terry gave the front door a knock for good measure. She wasn't taking a single risk that you might miss him by accident. As she declared, Terry crossed her fingers on both hands. The door opened a crack. Baxter curiously peeked out and then swung it open the rest of the way. He smirked. Well, isn't this a familiar sight? Last time the pair of you came, it was for my number. I wonder what today's mission could be. You're here! Terry loosened her bent fingers and threw her hands victoriously in the air. Amused, Baxter rubbed the back of his neck. I didn't realize I was missing, but yes, I'm here. I was simply getting ready to go out for the day. You turned your head away and tried to hide your smile. Of course, it was only now that he was making a move to go anywhere. It had to be at least noon before he'd do anything out of the house. Baxter's such a mood, bro. Though, even if I wasn't home, you're welcome to call me. It's not my intent to be difficult to reach. Thanks, but we wouldn't want to interrupt you if you were busy. Perish the thought. It wouldn't be an interruption, it'd be an improvement. Stop, he's so cute, I love him. You know I'd be thrilled to see you anytime. Baxter's words were meant for Terry too, but his gaze was set only on you. Terry's grin widened as her eyes crinkled. You knew her well enough to tell that she was psyching herself up. Her hands settled on her hips. Can you give us a ride someplace? Yes, easily. He answered without missing a beat. Terry whooped and Baxter brightened, pleased by her enthusiasm. May I ask where we are going? Baxter, my good friend, we're going to the craft and party supply store. A party store? What's the occasion? The way he perked up with genuine wonder, you could have sworn that his dark eyes were sparkling. Terry pressed a finger to her lips and winked. Shh, you can't tell anyone, but we're gonna give Miranda the best birthday of her young life. Oh, that sweetheart is having her birthday soon. Congratulations! Yes, on behalf of Randy, I thank you. And on behalf of me, I thank you again for providing the transportation. We would have been stranded without you. Baxter graciously bowed his head. He picked up on the urgency and importance of what your team was asking. Now that I know what it's for, there's no way I could ever refuse. I'm honored to help. How are the preparations going? A tiny, nervous laugh bubbled up in Terry's throat. She glanced at you, scratching the side of her cheek. Yeah, the preparations aren't going is the problem. Today's the preparations. Fucking help. Baxter, fix it, make it all better. Well, we got a room booked at a place big enough to hold the party. It's a grand private event like she's never had before. That's great to hear. Yeah. We just need all the food and the party stuff to go in it. I take it that you don't have caterers or decorators arranged then. We are the caterers and decorators. Me and Blake mostly, since Cove couldn't come along today. Ah, I see. Baxter idly tapped his finger against his chin. His brow pinched pensively. Certainly this can be done, so there's no reason to worry. But when is the event? Baxter's gonna lose his shit, bro. Tomorrow. His fucking face, bro. I can't. Terry's simple, upbeat answer tore a gasp from Baxter. Bewildered, he slid a step backwards and grasped the fabric across his chest. This was easily the most dramatic reaction you'd ever witnessed from him. There was nothing you could do to stop the snort and laugh that followed. Covering your mouth, you tried twisting away from your friends, but the battle was lost. His reaction was too funny. He was too aghast to even notice. Tomorrow? It's tomorrow, and you only have a venue and 2 people? Nothing else? And it's going to be a grand affair? Baxter's losing his shit, and honestly, same. Baxter's mouth snapped shut following that outburst. Neither you nor Terry uttered a single word in response. The two of you shared a quick glance. Baxter took a deep, steadying breath through his nose. He slowly smoothed out the wrinkles in his shirt and exhaled. Baxter's out here trying to find his zen real quick. He said, "Let me reel it the fuck in, because this isn't gonna help." I think Baxter's over our bullshit just a little bit, and I don't blame him. I fall somewhere between Baxter and Terry. Baxter's reaction was too much for me, and Terry's reaction was too little for me. I'm somewhere in the middle, like I'm stressed, but not Baxter level. Look at him just trying to find his center, his peace of mind. He's like, let me reel this shit the fuck back in. I agree, Baxter gets this. It's gonna be fine. Once he was better composed, Baxter regained his usual confident air. He attempted to lightly chuckle, but you still caught the strain in his tone. You may have more problems than the lack of a vehicle, I'm afraid. Thank you for the hydration reminder, I appreciate it. Baxter said wheels are the least of your worries, my guy. Terry fidgeted her fingers out of embarrassment, but she stood strong and explained the situation to Baxter. She repeated the thought process she walked you through before. I couldn't get the goods earlier, or Randy would have figured out what I was doing instantly. I couldn't risk it. And even if I managed the impossible, she's always at my house. Not having anything to sniff out was the best way to keep everything a secret. Terry, my love, darling, I adore you, and I understand your sentiment. But we don't have anything to surprise her with. Crossing your arms, you could have hidden the decorations successfully at your house. Your teeth pinched the inside of your cheek just to keep that opinion inside. As long as we stay focused, it can happen. We've just got to buy the decorations today and make the snacks, and then the desserts. Then we set it all up tomorrow before things kick off at noon. No problem. Right. How hard could it be, Baxter? I'm trying to back Terry here. I'm doing my best. You turned to him with hopeful optimism. Baxter nervously tugged at the collar of his shirt. Truthfully, I hope it's not too difficult. You must work within the circumstances you have. Well, since I've attended a number of functions, I'd be delighted to offer advice and assistance, today and tomorrow. I can definitely do more than simply carting you to the store. No way! You're hired. Not him being a little party planner. Stop. Terry cheered this upswing of good luck. Baxter's eyebrow arched quizzically, and then you could see his growing amusement stirring. Hired? Are you offering to pay me? Nah, but you can join our secret party planning team. That's priceless. I love Terry, I can't. I'll take it. His tone sounded even happier than his teasing ploy for money. There really was no payment that would have made it more worth the while. Baxter laughed and gestured towards the street. Let's discuss the details on the way. I imagine the store you have in mind isn't in town. Terry hopped towards the street and partially twisted her heel. She tilted her head and smirked. Nothing's in this little beach town. With his hands in his pockets, Baxter stepped aside, passing you to join Terry on the road. He had a few words as he crossed your path. Oh, I would have to disagree with that. Your skin grew warmer from just that slight brush with Baxter. My car is parked a short walk that way. All right, team, here we go. Baxter slipped inside the condo to grab his keys. You and Terry loitered in the empty street while you waited. We totally hit the jackpot. Did you see his face when he realized this was about a party? He probably has loads of ideas. I figured he'd be willing to help us figure this stuff out. Baxter didn't take long to return and lock up. You followed him to his car with a pep in your step, and Terry slapped her palm to the front passenger side door. Dibs on shotgun. Terry, okay. Love you, friend, but that's rude. Coulda let me have shotgun. Ah. Okay, I guess I'll be flexible and be fine either way. I mean, realistically, I don't like that. I want to be shotgun. I want to hang out with Baxter. Rude, but fine either way. Works for me. Yes, thanks. Terry enthusiastically gave you a finger gun and then pulled the car door open. She climbed in and you plopped down in the back seat. You were glad after all that stressing, all it took to make her so happy was to sit in the front seat. Terry glanced at Baxter across the small space between them and winked. It'll be like you're chauffeuring Blake because they're a VIP. Ah, yes. And where can we drive you today, Mix Thrasher? Stop, not him going along with it. It's so cute. I also love this game because I'm having my character use they them pronouns. It's using the neutral of Mr. or Miss, which is Mix, which I don't think is well known enough. So that little detail makes my little NB heart fucking squeeze, bro. Baxter buckled his seatbelt, then immediately began searching for nearby craft and party supply stores via GPS. Did you have a particular store in mind? Oh, that one. She pointed at the lower half of the screen, and Baxter wordlessly set her pick as the destination. With that settled, the rest of you got comfortable and buckled in for the ride. Despite being the new guy in the area, Baxter confidently drove as if he'd been traveling these roads his whole life. He followed the directions laid out for him, but he also kept a part of himself focused on the task at hand. Baxter kept the conversation focused on how he could better help you and Terry with the party. He didn't hesitate to be a key member of this operation. Thank you for doing this, Baxter. Seriously, it's so nice. You're welcome. Baxter quickly slid his gaze up to the rearview mirror. His sweet smile curved playfully as he returned his attention to the road. Though there's no real need to thank me. I'd feel horrible if I ignored your plight, especially when I'm in an easy position to help. You've got a real heart of gold in there. Terry lightly punched his shoulder, and Baxter shook his head at her bold antics. You caught his eye for a split second in the mirror again. Wait, that's not good. I need a black heart, don't I? Perhaps I should turn the car around. Ah, no, you've got a silver heart. That's grayscale. Baxter snorted and tightened his grip on the wheel. Perfect. So, do we have an idea on what we're looking for? It's gonna have a theme. The party can't just be a generic birthday bash. We're going for something here. Excellent. Having a specific design core makes it all the easier. Baxter answered with a pleased tone and peeked at the GPS. He turned the car at the intersection. And the theme is? Take a wild guess. I bet you won't get it right. We don't know. Ah. Somehow his smile remained perfectly in place. You imagined that he fully expected the lack of preparation at this point. Well, there are many concepts one can go with. For example, it's summertime and a classic style that would be nautical. Or perhaps desert chic for California, if we wanted to take our location into account. Or, what about this? While summer is scorching on the outside, the guests are treated to a winter wonderland inside. That kind of unexpected, intentionally out of season aesthetic can be quite fun. Holy ideas, Baxter. Goddamn. Exhaling deeply, Terry leaned the side of her head against the glass and stared out the window, mulling over Baxter's suggestions. She sank her front teeth into her bottom lip. If none of those suffice, we can continue brainstorming. I don't know if any of those are right for Miranda. She doesn't care about what's trendy or seasonal, or what might impress her guests. That's a good point. This isn't some party, it's Miranda's party. Unfortunately, I only met the woman this whole affair is for once. There's not much I can glean from that. I apologize. That put him at quite a disadvantage, despite his sincere intent to help. Frowning, you felt somewhat similar. Nobody knew Miranda better than Terry, and that meant she should have the final say on these big decisions. Would you rather I stop proposing ideas? I'm sure whatever you think she'll enjoy most will be wonderful. No, I need so much help. I don't even know what party themes are. How am I gonna pick one? Okay, then I should keep throwing out ideas until something sounds good to your ears? Yes, please. There's gotta be a theme that's perfect for her. I'll know it when I hear it. Poor Baxter. Baxter's doing the most right now, my guy. Very well. Baxter said challenge accepted, let's go. I love that. You could practically hear the gears moving in Baxter's brain. His expression scrunched up, and it was clear that he was silently compiling a list. Oh, wait. What can you tell me about the venue? The colors, the size, the style. We can use that as a base to work off of. It would be pointless to fall in love with the concept and then realize it would clash with the room. Smart. I found the perfect place. It's pretty big. Imagine a space that's larger than the average living room. It's like 3 living rooms. She's got lots of family and plenty of friends coming, so we need it. There's also a lit-up dance floor in the center, too. A dance floor? Oh boy, you got Baxter's interest now. His eyes sparked with excitement. You imagined the dance floor would be just as bright tomorrow. Will the event have any slow dancing? Who slow dances at a birthday party? It's not a prom. Baxter's shoulders slumped in response while Terry's surprised laugh morphed into a small coughing fit. He sighed deeply. I'm so disappointed him just want dance. That's true. If only someone was getting married instead. There's always formal dancing at weddings. I feel like we could make an exception for Baxter to get a slow dance. I'm just fucking saying. With all he's helping for this party, I feel like my dude is earning a dance right now. I love him. It's a shame that as an adult, the only appropriate occasion to dance with a partner, besides at practice and competitions, is such an uncommon event. But of course, this is outside of having your own actual partner who you can go dancing with whenever you'd like. Your head tilted. Was that a hint? The two of you were dating. Did he want to go dancing with you? Or maybe there wasn't any intent behind his general statement? Ah, I promise to dance with you somehow. For real. Baxter, I will dance with you, so help me. He held your eye in the mirror for another second. I would enjoy that immensely. It was the least you could do for him after he willingly signed up to help you out. Never mind sharing a dance with Baxter was going to be a special treat, and you had zero intent to miss that. But Baxter shook his head, ridding himself of his indulgent thoughts. His attention flickered to the map. Regardless, it wouldn't matter either way in this case. I apologize for getting us off track. How else would you describe the venue? It's shiny and pretty and pink. That does give a strong picture of what the presentation could be. It's limiting, but in a helpful way. How so? The most obvious direction would be to make the entire theme simply pink. Terry snorted and tried to suppress her giggles, but she was instantly unsuccessful. Randy does like that color, but she doesn't feel the same way about it as you do with black and white. Now it was Baxter's turn to chuckle. That's fair. So moving on, we have pretty and sparkly. What else? Is Miranda a fan of glitz and glamour? No. Well, basically no. Terry's brow furrowed, and she slowly deflated in her seat. Randy wouldn't like trying to be glamorous. That's not how she is, and she wouldn't know how to act if that's what the theme was. Is that so? Then what about a faux high life theme? And what would that be like? And what would that be? You sat forward, wondering what either of those two words were supposed to mean in terms of decorating a party. Let me think of the best way to articulate the premise. Imagine plastic champagne glasses filled with sparkling cider, and dainty desserts coated in shimmering dust so they shine. A chocolate fountain with fresh strawberries to dip and colored lights, perhaps even feather boas for guests to wear. The idea is that nothing is truly extravagant. It's tongue-in-cheek, but with all the celebratory fun of acting like a star on your special day. Not being that kind of person would be part of the point. Cute and silly, basically. Terry sprung up in her seat, vibrating with excitement. She turned to you, but she was still rendered speechless from Baxter's proposition. Did I strike a chord? Ah, that would be so fun. Randy loves to let loose and not be so serious, but she's definitely a star. It sounds as though we have a theme then. Yeah, it's all gonna come together now. And we accomplished it without having to leave the car. Ah. Wow, Baxter, you really know your stuff. My goodness. Dude is meant to plan parties for real. Seriously, you're awesome. It's honestly nothing special. I'm simply sharing some thoughts based on my experiences. I love him. Him's so good at things. It's nothing to you, but it is to us. The rest of the drive kept the secret party planning ball rolling, and the three of you took turns proposing suggestions for what you needed to track down at the store. Aw, cute, okay. He's so good at planning, I'm shook. When you arrived, the three of you entered the store, fully focused on the mission. Though you felt underprepared standing at the entrance and scanning the cluttered store in front of you. Shelves were piled with miscellaneous goods, and there was a strong smell wafting in the air. It was like a mix of paint and a scented something. Maybe a pine cone? Curling your fingers into fists, you steeled yourself for the task. It was going to be way too easy to get lost with the endless sea of bits and bobs calling out to you. The secret party planning team couldn't fail now. Come on, there's no time to waste. Terry took the lead, claiming a shopping cart and picking a direction. She pushed on ahead while you followed at Baxter's pace. It wasn't long before Terry was combing through the pile of knickknacks. Her fiery determination to make this birthday the best it could be was admirable. You were proud to be a part of her grand plan. Your group traveled down several aisles, picking up a variety of supplies that had been decided on during the drive. The right-shaped cups, plastic forks and spoons that resembled proper silverware, and the rest of the basics. You picked out some shiny tablecloths to replace the old checkered ones, and Terry found a few platters to serve the desserts on. Next on the agenda was to locate what you'd need to prepare the desserts. But before any of you could do that, Terry stopped in her tracks and pointed. Oh, look! Craning your head, you scanned the area until you landed on what she was seeing. There in the distance were dozens of feather boas hanging over a row of long hooks. They were fluffy and came in several bright saturated colors. Grinning wide, Terry raced to the display and flung a ton of them into the cart. It was anyone's guess how many would be needed for tomorrow, and since they were only a couple dollars each, Terry was sticking with the old tried-and-true method of better safe than sorry. Eventually, her looting uncovered a single pure white boa. It's faux high life, I believe. So, fancy being, fake fancy. Being silly goofy, but pretending to be, up there. I'm gonna go with you instantly knew you needed that boa. Perfect for Baxter. You grabbed it, mindful not to crush the delicate feathers. They were soft against your skin while you examined them for any hidden splotches of color. Luckily, the feathers were immaculate, so you added the boa to the growing pile in the cart. It soon became lost in the sea of rainbow. Once Terry was satisfied, she stared at the cart. Everything that you'd selected before was buried under a pile of boas. And there was a lot more shopping to do. Maybe we should get a second cart. I couldn't agree more. You two can go to the cake decorating aisle, and I'll meet you there. Thanks, B-Man. Baxter hurried to the end of the aisle and paused there. Glancing back, Terry sent him off with a playful salute, and he answered with a wave. Bye, we'll see you soon. After that, you and Terry ended up getting a bit turned around, but at long last you found the aisle with the cake decorating supplies. Terry drove the cart back and forth, anxiously scanning the selection. So, what desserts are we gonna have? There should be a cake, but that can't be all, right? What about cupcakes? Randy loves cupcakes. That's a really good idea. Miranda's gonna be over the moon. Yeah. Terry mumbled contemplatively to herself, leaning against the carriage. She nodded once, then again. I'll try it. No, I must do it. Hold on. When are you gonna have time to make 2 desserts? Tonight after all the shopping, or tomorrow when the entire room needs to be decorated? I can squeeze it in somewhere. We should split up the tasks. I'll make the cupcakes and you can make the cake, okay? Really? Thanks, buddy. Terry dabbed an invisible tear from her eye and then placed a hand across her heart. No one could ask for a more loyal cohort. I love Terry. I want cake and cupcakes too. This isn't that dessert, but I think after I get off stream, I'm gonna eat some ice cream. I have this, it's called chocolate therapy or something, and it's chocolate ice cream with chocolate cookie bits, and then it's chocolate pudding something, and it's really good, honestly. I'm glad to do it. Terry hooked an arm around your shoulders. She pulled you into a side hug and squeezed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Alright, so I've been thinking about making a confetti cake with vanilla frosting. Could you make chocolate cupcakes with cheesecake frosting? And make them all look pretty too. I got it. I think it's Ben & Jerry's for the brand of ice cream, if I'm not mistaken. You added a thumbs up, and Terry excitedly pumped her fist. This is gonna be a great party. With renewed enthusiasm, Terry picked out a couple containers of gold and silver shimmer dust for the treats, and a packet of edible jewels and decorative stars. No problem, I got you. Terry reached up and snagged a big 19-shaped candle to go on top of the cake. Her arms were rapidly getting full, and then just in time. There you are. I've been searching for you two. He wheeled the new cart over, but it wasn't empty. Sitting comfortably inside was a boxed chocolate fountain, a pack of wooden skewers, and a big bag of melting chocolate wafers to be used with it. Ooh! Terry leaned into the cart and examined the advertised features printed on the box. Some of the packets she was holding onto fell from her grasp and tumbled in with a clang. This is a good brand. It's not too loud. The music should cover the noise it does make, though. Works for me. Baxter, why you got so much chocolate fountain knowledge? I want a chocolate fountain. Terry released the remaining things she was carrying into the carriage. They rained onto the unsuspecting fountain. You placed what you had inside next. Baxter studied everything you'd picked out while he was gone. You have excellent taste. Those decorations are fantastic. Thanks. My cupcakes are gonna be almost too nice to eat. A feast for the eyes, then. Yeah, we got this in the bag. As you passed through more parts of the store, the three of you grabbed a few other last-minute odds and ends. Somewhere along the way, Terry found a sash that said Birthday Girl. She eagerly snatched it up and threw it across the pile of feather boas. You pointed out some oversized sunglasses next. Oh, good catch. Those totally fit the vibe. Nodding, you tossed a handful into the cart. From there, your team circled the premises for a little while before deciding to check out and get your haul home. The register area you discovered wasn't built anything like one at the supermarket. There wasn't a long conveyor belt to put stuff on, only a short counter space. Sorry, this will be one moment. You flashed the cashier an apologetic smile, and you got to work piling the dozens of party supplies from the 2 full carts. Not one piece was particularly pricey, but with the amount of stuff you gathered, the total was skyrocketing. Even with the contributions from friends and family as a combination gift, it was going to be a close call. Terry's lip twitched as she tried not to frown. The displayed price grew higher and higher, and there was still a mountain of things on the counter. Baxter stared at Terry, and his brow furrowed. He then reached over and plucked away the chocolate fountain box, the skewers, and the packet of chocolate. No, I want that. Don't worry about it. I'm going to buy this part myself. But it's not a necessary supply that you were anticipating you'd buy, and it was my bright idea on top of everything. I'll cover it. My treat. Or rather, my gift for Miranda's birthday. Stop, he's so cute, not him buying a chocolate fountain. Thank you for the hydration reminder. It's so cute that he's buying it. I fucking can't. Here, my birthday present to the girl I met one time. And I'm like, I just want to squeeze him. I love him. I can't say no to that. Thank you so much. He gave her a pleased nod and then went to the end of the line, carrying the box under his arm. Baxter managed to get through the line, stop at a different register, and complete his purchase well before you and Terry were through. He waited awkwardly off to the side of the checkout area with his bag. After the poor cashier dug themselves out of the pile of sparkly and feathered goods, you caught up to him with the 2 carts neatly packed with bags. As you were leaving, a voice-over announced that the store would be open for only another 30 minutes. Terry glanced at the overhead speaker in shock. Whoa, I knew we were here for a while, but not that long. Me every time I enter a store. My lack of sense of time goes even further out the window when I'm in a store like this. I'll be in there all damn day, I don't fucking know. I'd say this was a successful trip. This was a massive success. Yeah, it was worth it. Your party planning committee exited the store and made your way through the parking lot. Together, you had to fill the trunk and a part of the back seat. We'll take the carts back. Yeah, we've got it. I'll stay put here then. Baxter leaned against the car door as you rolled away. The sky was dark, and the night air felt invigorating after being in that stuffy, overly scented store. There was an added pep in your step now that you weren't weighed down by party supplies. Terry shot you a mischievous grin, and then raced past you across the pavement. Chased after her. Neither of you needed to exchange a word to know that this was a friendly race. Terry moved faster, hearing the rattle of your cart coming closer. Then you returned to the car together. Baxter stood up and smoothed his shirt before opening his door. "Welcome back." You squeezed into the car and let your eyes feast on the fruits of the afternoon's labor. Terry hopped into the front again. Terry fished her phone out and messaged her parents that she was ready for them to pick her up. She explained that if they left now, then her mom or dad would be at your house by the time the three of you returned. Smart. Look at Terry out here, planning this better than we planned the party, just saying. After that, you simply needed to enjoy a comfortably quiet ride to the neighborhood. All that shopping ended up being more exhausting than any of you anticipated. After a brief and uneventful drive through sleepy streets, you arrived home to find a van parked outside. As you approached, you recognized the shade of green paint and that characteristic dent in the rear fender. Terry leaned out the window and hollered cheerily, "All right, you made it!" Away from the driver's side window, it was Terry's parents, come to pick her up as planned. "This is great. We can take most of the stuff home in the van." Terry jerked a thumb towards the piles of party paraphernalia perched precariously in the back of the car. I figure it can stay there until tomorrow. My old folks said we could borrow the van to take everything to the party venue anyway. It's like we planned it or something." I can't with Terry, I love her. Baxter silently nodded, pulling up alongside Terry's parents. "Well, since we're transferring the supplies from one vehicle to another, we might as well minimize the distance. Terry, would you mind?" He gestured towards the rear of the van. Terry nodded and hopped out to let her mom know it was safe to pop the trunk. While you left your seat, Baxter opened up his own car, then gave Terry's mom and dad a friendly wave. Thus began the daunting task of unloading. Terry's parents noticed how much stuff you'd ended up bringing back, and soon they were also lending a hand. With all five of you, the seemingly endless stack of party goods was defeated in a few short minutes. I think that's the last of it. Many hands truly do make light work." You let out a sigh of relief, stretching your arms. They'd gotten sore from all the heavy lifting in spite of the help. Bow down before the awesome and terrible power of teamwork. Terry's so hyped and I love it. Terry wasn't even remotely out of breath. She could do the whole thing over again without breaking a sweat. You counted yourself lucky she didn't threaten to do just that. Her sense of humor could be wild sometimes. Baxter leaned against the closed rear door of the van, casually addressing Terry and her parents. "Are you fine people headed home now? It's getting late." A trio of assenting noises followed. "Yep, we've got everything for tomorrow." "Oh, hold on a sec." She marched over to where you stood and planted her feet on the sidewalk with intent. She stood to attention as though suddenly in the middle of a military parade. You could see she had an object clutched in her right hand, though it was difficult to make out in the dusk. She must have taken out one of the shopping bags from earlier. "Soon as I get home, the next stage of our mission commences. Don't worry about me, though. It'll be, here it comes, a piece of cake." Terry, I like you. She lifted one of your hands and dropped the held item into it. 3 shimmering cylinders of confectionery glitter. Of course, there was still work to be done tonight. Baking. You were raring to go. It'll be fine. It's for Randy. It'll be all good. Raring to go, let's go! You clutched the little plastic tubes of glitter tightly, giving Terry an enthusiastic mock salute. Aye, aye, Captain. Good luck and see you tomorrow. I'll swing by to pick you guys up at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, okay? Party starts at noon, and we're gonna need all the time we can get. Oof, that 7 a.m. hurts though. Not the early day. With a skip and a jump, Terry was already clambering into her parents' van. She waved enthusiastically as the sliding door closed. After retreating to a safe distance, you and Baxter watched the van pull out and head off up the street. It was surprising it could move anymore, with all that extra weight. The glow of the headlights grew distant and then faded into the night like a late summer dream. All was quiet for a pause, then Baxter spoke. I understand that there's one more job left to take care of then. He nodded down at the clear containers you were still clutching in your hand. Yeah, I still have stuff to do. It's going to be a long night. Well, I cannot say I'm surprised you aren't finished. It's a tall order arranging an event at short notice. Not that I'm criticizing your attempt in the slightest. It's honestly admirable to see the commitment. But I'm getting off topic. What's next on the agenda? You explained to Baxter the situation with the party food. You'd volunteered to make chocolate cupcakes with cream cheese frosting, while Terry would do the real birthday cake. It was a relatively simple order at least. No last-minute meringues for Miranda. She'd survived the disappointment. The edible faux metallic glitter that Terry had handed you was to be the final layer of decoration, a touch of pizzazz that would transform the basic cupcakes into something more to theme. Baxter touched a hand to his mouth and nodded in agreement as you explained. Of course, a pleasing appearance is hardly the most critical factor. A poorly baked dessert would still taste bad, no matter how it looked, but flair can help elevate a thing beyond itself. I suppose you could say it's the icing on the cake? Stop, I love them! Baxter coughed quietly into his fist, as though to muffle a laugh. Terry had been rubbing off on him, clearly. I love seeing Terry rub off on Baxter, because we saw earlier in the summer Baxter rub off on Terry when she faked being all formal and stuff. It's so cute. Regardless, that sounds to be a marvelous idea, though slightly less marvelous given how tight the schedule is. It's getting late. There was no denying that. His thoughtful expression was obscured by the darkness around the both of you. Here's what I suggest. Why don't you come over to my house to do it? I can give you a hand with the preparation if you think I'll be any use. For how often and how readily Baxter always offered his services, you shouldn't have been taken aback by this latest gesture. And yet you still found yourself wondering, why? Baxter had clearly anticipated your reaction, cutting off the question before you could ask it. He made a gesture as if he was looking at his wristwatch, though of course he didn't wear one. It's nearly 10 p.m. Your family won't exactly thank you for baking this late at night. The noise is one thing, the smell will be another matter. And besides, your fridge might not have enough free space. Leaving the cakes out all night might spoil them. The fridge in my condo is, well, there's plenty of room. Baxter's dictation had gained a faint quavering edge, like he was skirting around a nervous giggle. It's empty, in fact. I have a conveniently empty fridge in a conveniently empty house. Perfect, wouldn't you say? When he put it in those terms, it made total sense. Baxter sure did have a lot of foresight when it came to these things. It was impressive he always thought that far ahead. You agreed it was an opportune set of circumstances, but as he talked about how empty his temporary home was, it struck you that Baxter sounded a little sad. It must be quiet, all alone in that house. Maybe that was why he was always so willing to come spend time with you, or the other people he knew round here. Okay, well that would be really helpful. Thanks. Don't mention it. I'm in it until the very end as far as this party is concerned. Call it a vocation of sorts. The feeling's mutual. Baxter clapped his hands together. He'd fully committed himself to the cause and was ready to put a plan in motion. Excellent. Let's get cooking, shall we? You'll have to retrieve ingredients from your house, since I don't have anything myself. The kitchen is fully outfitted, however, so you needn't bring any equipment. If you want to take care of things, I can begin prepping the utensils and such. I'll leave the front door unlocked, so feel free to let yourself in when you're ready. Sure thing. And so, you briefly split up. Baxter walked briskly to his rented condo, while you made your way speedily home. The night was still young, sort of, and so were you. What was a little harmless sleep deprivation between friends? And what kind of person even got tired at 10 p.m. anyway? Not you, that was for sure. Thank you for the hydrate reminder. Appreciate it. Okay, onwards and upwards to make some cupcakes, buddies. When you came in, you spied your moms sitting around the living room. They were huddled up on one of the couches, luxuriating in one another's company after a day's work. Ma's head rested on her wife's shoulder, while Mom brushed fingers lightly through her hair. They could have been a famous sculpture or painting sitting there. It was hard to witness your parents like that sometimes, not because it was embarrassing, although some people might have seen it that way. Your moms were a thing of tremendous gravity in your life. You were a fledgling they had fed and clothed and cleaned up after and loved for years and years, and soon you would be taking flight. You'd be gone. Maybe that was why you found yourself glancing down at the hardwood floor at the sight of your moms. It was a lot to take in at 10 p.m., to be honest. But the sound of the front door alerted them both to your presence. The two halves of that piece of art moved in alignment and turned. Welcome back, sweetie. Nice of you to drop by, Blake. Will you be staying with us long? No. A classic mom joke. You babbled out the whole Terry's organizing a last-minute party for Randy, don't tell anyone, been out all day, and BTW, I need to make cupcakes tonight situation. Jesus, that's a mouthful. Not to mention the I'm going over to Baxter's house. Do we have any ingredients I can use situation? There was a whole lot of situation to cover. Oh, that's absolutely wonderful, Blake. I'm sure Miranda will be delighted. You're all working so hard. It's getting late, though, and you've been going for most of the day. Ma was eyeing the wall clock and gave you a playful pout. Are you sure you don't want to call it a night and let your mom and me handle the baking? You shook your head, declining the offer. Miranda was your friend, and you'd given Terry your word that you'd take care of it. Besides, it wasn't as if your moms hadn't also worked today. Ma's tiny frown deepened, so disappointed not to be allowed to baby you. But it was all in good humor. All right, we won't push it. So long as you're sure Baxter's okay with you wreaking havoc in his immaculate kitchen. Ma let out an unbridled snort. He's a teenager living on his own, Pam. How immaculate could that kitchen be? You'd be surprised. If we were talking about any other teenager, I would get it, but Baxter's very, prim and proper about things. You opened your mouth to defend Baxter and all other teenagers before realizing that it hardly counted if the only reason he had a clean kitchen was that he'd never used it in the first place. Okay, that's a fair point. All right, I'll give you that one, I guess. If his tone earlier was anything to go by, he'd probably even thank you for making a mess. It might brighten up the place. You didn't say any of this to your moms, though. You made it clear to them that Baxter had assured you it was A-OK. It was his idea to begin with, after all. He'd been insistent on helping, like certain other people you could mention. This mollified your parents. Though they teased, they were acting entirely out of consideration for your temporary neighbor. Too bad Baxter Ward had out-considered them already. I love my moms. They're so cute. They're so sweet. Oh my goodness. Okie dokie. Gotta keep moving forward, buddies. Love you, moms, but got shit to do. I understand. You'll handle it like the grown-ups you are. At least let us help you gather the ingredients together before you go. Pam, do you think you could get the already on it? Mom had headed towards the kitchen and began pulling things out of the cupboards. Your mom and I actually have some leftover boxes of chocolate cake mix from, oh, I forget what it was now, but you're welcome to take it all, honey. That should save you some time. The frosting will have to be made fresh, but I always find that's the easiest part. Oh, and we also have... Mom's arm shot out from behind the fridge door, clutching a large tub of cream cheese. She placed it next to a row of bright red boxes of cake mix and half a dozen eggs on the counter. You should take some extra muffin tins too, just in case. If Baxter's oven is big enough, you can bake multiple batches at once instead of doing it in stages. He might not need it, but being prepared never hurt anybody. Here, Mom paused, a thoughtful look on her face. Unless you were making a plan to, say, assassinate someone, then your preparations would be designed to... Pamela, the muffin tins. Right, muffin tins. We have 2 you can take along. Cupcake liners, too. While they were meant to only help, your moms did all the work of getting the supplies, and soon you found yourself ready to head on over to Baxter's condo. Not planning to... Oh my goodness, my moms. They kissed you, one on either cheek, and shooed you enthusiastically out the door. You hurried across the street, lugging your cargo in 2 large grocery store branded totes. Once up the front steps to Baxter's house, you gingerly rearranged things so you were able to grab the doorknob. As promised, Baxter had left it unlocked, a panel of light spread over your feet. Steeling yourself in preparation for the last stretch of the interminable day, you gripped the bag handles tighter and stepped inside. They do have it all, for real. Not Mom being like, well, if you were gonna somebody, and I'm like, can we not talk about if you were gonna plan to, like, no. Mom's unhinged sometimes, though. Where'd that come from? Oh, goodness. Okay. We're back. Stepping briskly through the entry, you recalled that Baxter's condo had a kitchen directly opposite the main living room. You made your way straight there. Baxter was waiting for you beside the fridge and swiveled around when he heard you enter. Ah, you're here. Excellent. Welcome, welcome. Were you able to find everything you need from your house? Many places might be closed this late, but I'm not opposed to a trip to the grocery store if necessary. Stop, I love him. He said we can go out again if we need to. I feel like I say it every time we're in his house, but I love this tree. I'm not quite sure what's hanging off the tree in terms of, like, decoration, but I like them. I think they're cute. You casually lifted the 2 large bags of ingredients and baking supplies and placed them on the counter between you. No need, I managed to get everything. You both made a start on unpacking the bags of ingredients, but before you could get very far, there was a sudden exclamation from Baxter. In your hands were 2 boxes of cake mixture. Oh, hallelujah. I was hoping you'd bring something similar. Being that genuinely glad, you couldn't help but let your eyes widen in surprise. Are you not much of a baker? Baxter sheepishly raked a hand through his iconically colored hair. Practically speaking, I actually haven't the faintest idea what kind of baking I'm capable of, though the probability suggests that it's unlikely to be much. Stop, not him being like, I don't even know how to bake. Baxter, you silly little goddamn goose, why would you offer to help with baking if you don't know anything about baking? To tell you the truth, I've never baked before in my entire life, whether using a pre-prepared mix or not. Love him, but what is this? Tim said, yeah, I'll help, but I have no idea what I'm doing. I only imagined that this way could be easier. This way would be easier, potentially. It's okay, I'm pretty good at it myself. I don't mean to brag, but I do be making, like box cakes and stuff, and brownie mix, and if it comes with instructions, I can figure it out. That's okay, I'm pretty good at it myself. Although, to be honest, decorating isn't exactly my forte. Hell yeah, I love that you made chocolate cake. You know something I want to try more of? You'll see on TikTok sometimes, they do these, like, little mug cakes that I would be curious to try, where you just put, like, flour and sugar and egg or whatever into, like, a mug, and then you mix it and you put it in the microwave for, like, a minute. I'd be curious to try more, like, mug cake recipes. I think that could be cool. Baxter's mouth lifted in an impish little smirk. In that case, we can lean on each other. 2 heads are better than 1 and all that. At least, that's the theory. We must soldier on either way. Speaking of which, let's get baking, shall we? You finished unpacking the remaining ingredients, lining them all up carefully on the countertop. Baxter took the second bag and did the same. That reminds me, I might have been a bit hyperbolic when talking about how barren my fridge is earlier. It's not as if the thing is completely empty. At the time, I wanted to assure you that it wouldn't be any trouble for you to come and make use of it, and there definitely is plenty of room. But I'm not completely incapable of providing a basic level of hospitality. If you're ever hungry or thirsty, let me know. This news came as a relief to you, probably not for the reason that Baxter was expecting. Sure, it was great you wouldn't starve while you were here. But mostly, you were glad to hear that Baxter wasn't living on his own with nothing to eat in the house. That mental image had been so lonely. Yeah, no problem. If I find any cool cake recipes that seem like they could be fun, I will send them your way. I will also make it known if I've tried them myself or not, or if I just think they sound like they could be good. You thanked Baxter for the offer, although you weren't in the mood for anything at present. At some point in the conversation, Baxter had rummaged around in the cupboard and added a third muffin tray to the two of yours. The kitchen happened to be supplied with one of these already, but thank you for bringing the spares in case of an emergency. As often happened in your life, you found yourself offering a prayer of thanks to your mom for reminding you of the blindingly obvious. Actually, I think we should use them all. It's pretty inefficient to bake only one tray of cakes at a time. Depending on how big your oven is, we could do all three together. We could do three together. No problem, I got you. Always trying to help. Baxter's eyebrows lifted a fraction in surprise. That's true. There should be enough space. The pans aren't terribly large. I'll double check. He picked up one of the trays and walked over to the oven and opened it up. He put it inside, then took it back out, then tried putting it in again long ways. Then he nodded, apparently satisfied. Yes, that will do, especially if we use more than one shelf. 3 dozen cupcakes at once. We could almost start a bakery. No problem, Sebby. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you being here. Not Baxter in a bakery. You know what? I'm not a huge fan of baking unless the mood arises. However, I would 1,000% start a bakery with this sweet little dude right here. I would start a bakery with Baxter in a fucking heartbeat, bro. He was more than a little tickled by the idea, so you refrained from pointing out that he'd first have to know a bit more about baking to actually run one. Another matter squared away. Well, where shall we begin? Without saying another word, you tore into the cake mix. We'll start with the batter, which is the mix plus water, oil, and eggs. Normally you'd use milk, but the mix we're using has powdered milk in it to begin with, so water is good. I see. We also need to set the oven to preheat to 350 Fahrenheit. Excellent. That's relatively straightforward. The pair of you promptly made a start. Measuring out the ingredients into a mixing bowl didn't present any real challenge. Baxter insisted on cracking the eggs. Even I know how to do that much. With everything together in one bowl, you started to stir it together using a wooden spoon. While you were mixing the batter, Baxter diligently placed 36 miniature paper cupcake liners into the tins. Once he was finished, he came and peered over your shoulder into the bowl. Him just want help so much. It's just so freaking sweet, bro. I can't. Is it ready? He's like a little kid, just peeking into the bowl, being like, is it ready yet? Are we ready now? Are we good? You gave a firm nod. You had the batter at a good, even consistency, moderately thick while still being runny enough to pour. How are we meant to get it into the trays? A spoon, perhaps? A serving spoon would do fine, although a rubber spatula would come in handy for getting the last bits of batter out of the bowl. You picked them both out of the utensil drawer. Portioning out the batter into the cupcake tins was where things started to get more involved. You took care of filling the 2 tins you'd brought from home, while Baxter made the effort on his own tin by himself. You managed to get the batter sitting evenly in all the cases without spilling. Baxter's pan didn't fare so well, however. His batter portions were uneven, and some of the mixture had dribbled off the spoon and onto the tray, which had to be wiped down. He mumbled a quiet apology, clearly embarrassed, but you squashed it with an encouraging grin. He'd performed his duty, and you were grateful for the help. It's so cute. Baxter cautiously lifted the trays one at a time into the hot oven, placing 2 onto the top shelf and sliding the last one underneath. Then he checked the instructions again and set a timer on his phone. There was enough cake batter left over to fill another 2 trays at a rough estimate, but the 3 in the oven were all you had, so you covered the bowl with shrink wrap and put it in the fridge. By this point it was nearly 11 o'clock, but Baxter had remained perky and chipper as the night wore on. It didn't come as a surprise by this point, since you knew full well he was a proven night owl. Mood, Baxter. While the cakes were in the oven, you had to take care of the frosting next. You could remember a recipe without any trouble. Ma was right. It was one of the easier parts of making a cake, all told. You recited the necessary ingredients out aloud. As you went down the list, Baxter foraged around on the countertop and handed the named items to you, which you added to a fresh mixing bowl. Then he dove under the counter for a moment and popped back up sporting a handheld electric whisk. You inserted the 2 metal beaters into the mixer and switched it to a low setting. Then you turned the whisk on. Once the mixture was settled, you gradually upped the speed. Once again, Baxter was rather awestruck by the ease with which you handled the process. He'd been giving the electric whisk a nervous side-eye ever since it was brought out. If I'd been given charge of that device, a dusting of sugar would have been the least of our concerns. We might have spent the entire night scraping cream cheese off the walls. You chuckled and continued to smooth out the spread. While you doted on the bowl, Baxter peered over you with interest, leaning close in order to get a better look. It was a touch closer than might be considered strictly polite, and there was something about the proximity of his body that made it harder than usual to concentrate on the task at hand. You certainly didn't mind per se, but still, you were operating dangerous equipment here. You could easily pick out the smell of his aftershave. You swallowed. At some point he concluded that he was crowding you over much, so he took a few small steps to a safer distance. He sort of lounged against the far counter, trying to make it appear as though he'd always intended to do so. Baxter worked quite hard behind the scenes to give off the impression that everything he did was totally effortless. Maybe it came from being a dancer. You pondered these things during the tedious mixing process. It was so cute. Of course, you already knew Baxter was pretty adorable. I love him. Him is pretty adorable. I love him. My whole ass fucking heart, bro. I can't. Him just so cute. Okay, more water. It wasn't too long before you had the frosting looking halfway decent and turned the whisk off. Baxter took that as his cue to come back over, smiling pleasantly. Thanks for taking care of that, Blake. Come on, it was a team effort. You're too kind. I suppose we can say I provided emotional support then. He is adorable, and thank you for the hydration reminder. Listen, I won't say no to an emotional support Baxter, ever in my fucking life. I'd originally planned to put the frosting in the fridge while we wait for the cakes to finish, though that might make it too difficult to spread later on. What do you think? You'd been about to say the same thing, so you merely nodded in approval. It was nice to see that he was beginning to figure things out. At this point, you were inclined to relax a bit. Even with the frosting taken care of and the comforting smell of baking in the air, Baxter was in the mood to keep himself busy. In fact, your success with the cakes, however relative that success might be, had put him in an industrious frame of mind. You watched as he cheerfully donned a pair of rubber gloves, black of course, and began to fill the sink with water in order to wash the bowls and other baking equipment. While the faucet was running, he also took out some cloths and surface cleaner with the intent of wiping down the countertops wherever there were traces of cake mix powder and batter. I elected to help out with the cleaning. We're not going to leave him to clean on his own. Help! He gave you a silent smile of gratitude as he picked up one of the rags and the bottle of cleaner. You didn't exchange words. There was no need. Suddenly, there was a bright tinkling sound. It jolted you out of whatever thought you'd been having. Baxter's hand went to his back pocket. The timer on his phone had run out. The cakes are done. Well, potentially done. We still gotta do, like, the poke test. He was genuinely excited by the prospect, hastily jabbing at his screen to turn off the alarm, then grabbing a nearby pair of oven mitts with pictures of cats on it. They must have belonged to the owner of the condo, rather than Baxter himself, since the fabric was a deep red color. The cats were all black and white, though. You supposed that counted. Carefully, cautiously, he eased the 3 baking pans out of the oven, placing them one by one on onto the granite counter. He even recalled which had gone in first, second, and third, and removed them in proper order. The cakes looked good. They'd risen uniformly, and the color was a nice rich chocolate brown. They hadn't dried out either. You could see a faint moist sheen on the surface. You chimed up as you admired your handiwork. Do you have anything to go underneath the pans? To protect the counter, I mean? Oh, that's a good point. I don't think there's anything here, though. It should be fine, hopefully. The stone is real, not a veneer or over less sturdy material. Baxter stared down at the cakes, his face thoughtful. Then he removed the oven gloves, folded them on the tabletop, and pinched the bridge of his nose, eyes closed. I dread to ask, but how many of these were we supposed to make? I've only now realized I never asked Terry how much food she needs. Oh, you hadn't thought of that. While it had been decided you'd bring cupcakes, Terry had never said anything about quantity. She simply wanted another dessert besides her cake. You explained as much to Baxter. He breathed in through his nose, then sighed deeply and opened his eyes. Perhaps that's because Terry doesn't know herself. That's understandable. This whole party was extempore to begin with. I do hope 36 is enough. Even with the spare batter, we don't have time to prepare another batch, not if they're to cool and be frosted before the event. I must extend my thanks once again that you brought your family's spare tins over. Otherwise, the crowd would be fighting over a paltry 12 cupcakes. Thank Moms for letting us have them. That was lucky. Speaking of your family, you checked the clock on your phone to see how long ago you bade them farewell. Wow, it'd already gone past midnight. You couldn't believe it got so late, and you couldn't even start frosting until the cupcakes had cooled, which might take another hour or more. You put the phone down, glancing in Baxter's direction. You were acutely aware he was doing you a favor, more than one for that matter, and you didn't want to further impose if it be an issue. You decided to put the question to him directly, as much as you were able. What would be worse, staying up even later to finish everything tonight, or getting up bright and early tomorrow morning? Well, if I know anything about Baxter, he's gonna say it's gonna be worse to get up bright and early tomorrow morning. He's not a morning guy, remember? He's a night owl. Baxter scrunched up his face, his boyish nose wrinkling in distaste. Waking early, no question. I fucking knew it. Of course, you knew he'd say that before you even asked, but you wanted to give him the choice. That's fair. It's fine. Don't worry. I will stay awake as long as needed to see this endeavor through. I understood what I was signing up for when I offered to help, more or less. Though I honestly don't mind if you head home and get some rest. I can idle around until the cakes have set, and then, well, you know, the rest. Until today, I'd never baked before, and by extension, I am 99% certain I've never frosted a cake before either, but I can manage. He cleared his throat, crossing his arms with finality. The point is, I don't intend to quit until the end. The bitter, but hopefully not bitter in taste, end. Well, after such a rousing speech, I can't exactly abandon you. Plus, I would never. We're doing this together. I appreciate it greatly, both your continued company and your help. We'll get through this with, what was it? The awesome and terrible power of teamwork? Bow down. Of course, all hail. The commitment made, you decided to put the cakes in the freezer for a short while to help speed the cooling process along. The 3 tins fit snugly inside. Nothing left to do but wait. Genuinely, dude is committed to finishing this. I wonder how Terry's cake is coming along. Is that a note of concern I hear? I wouldn't fret about it if so. I imagine she'll settle for nothing less than total success. I haven't known her long. However, Terry strikes me as a force of nature that few things could impede, once she sets her mind on a course of action. Yeah, that summed Terry up pretty well. You could put your faith in her that way. The fact that Baxter had picked up on it after only a few conversations put your heart at ease. Baxter pressed firmly against the freezer door, making positively sure that it had shut. He then tapped at his phone, setting another timer before glancing in your direction. Since we need to wait a while longer, why don't we take this opportunity to rest? You're welcome to use either the couch or a chair in the living room. He ran a finger around his collar before putting a hand to his forehead, pantomiming fatigue. I must say, trying to keep up with you is taking its toll on my stamina. I'm starting to feel the effects. I'll take a rest on the couch then. Of course. Please go right ahead. Oh, before you go. He held up a hand, gesturing vaguely about. I'd almost forgotten where we were. I'll join you shortly, but can I bring you anything refreshing to drink? I was about to get myself a little something. I'm curious. What are you having? He tapped a finger to his chin and made a non-committal sound. You'll find out soon enough. That was rather unusual, you privately observed. Baxter would never normally dodge a direct question. He was always straightforward, even unnecessarily so, as Cove might say. Oh well, no use losing sleep over it. Not when you were losing so much already tonight. You made your way into the sitting area, making yourself at home on the generously sized couch. It was unexpectedly comfortable for one so fashionable. It is a cute couch. The house was built on an open plan to the extent that you could still see Baxter over in the kitchen from where you were waiting. He opened one of the cabinets and took out something that looked suspiciously like one of the plastic champagne flutes you and Terry had bought earlier today, except that one was real glass. From the fridge he fetched a large green bottle from a side shelf, which you hadn't spotted before. He needed to screw a cork off the top. Out of it poured a fizzy liquid, pale gold in color. Not you're actually drinking in front of our newborn cupcakes? I'm gonna just ask, wait, is that real champagne? Correct. The reply came immediately, without so much as a glance in your direction. He had no compunction about what he was doing. You know what? Can I try some? I'm a little curious. In real life, I waited till 21, like a good noodle. But I'm a little curious, and I mean, like, who's gonna fucking know in this situation? Baxter finally looked over at you, a weary smirk on his face. Then he reached into the cabinet again, retrieving a second champagne flute. I hate to be a bad influence, yet it'd be hypocritical not to offer you the same opportunity to misbehave that I afford myself. And I'd hate that even more. Exceptionally poor manners. It's all right. I was the one who asked. Without another word, Baxter poured a fresh glass taking them both in his hands. He carefully navigated his way out of the kitchen and perched himself on one of the chairs. You took the drink he held out. Then he clinked your glasses together and raised the one he had to his mouth. I won't tell if you won't. His lips curled mischievously. But look at me, drinking on the job. What a shameful way to start my new party planning occupation. Pro bono, naturally. Cheers, Blake. He took a long, slow sip of his champagne, closing his eyes and savoring the taste. He smacked his lips and let out a low ah of enjoyment. That hits the spot. Much better than that thing they called a baby Bellini. Though you wouldn't have admitted it, the laid-back manner with which he handled such an illicit topic was rather beguiling. Maybe you had a bit of a soft spot for the bad boys. Your thoughts snagged on something Baxter had said a moment ago. His joke about drinking while on the clock. In a certain sense, you reasoned, it wasn't so much of a joke after all. Baxter had readily committed to helping you and Terry organize Miranda's party at extremely short notice. He dedicated himself to the endeavor, not just today, but tomorrow as well. All of that for a group of people he'd only recently come to know. I am going to run to the bathroom real fast. I have a feeling this will be another long stream, so just give me 1 minute and I will be back. Okay, we are back. We are good to go. I am here. We are chilling. I'm glad you like the long streams. I like it too. It's just, I'm low-key looking forward to moving on and doing other stuff and getting a little bit more space between all this reading. 'cause, I'm not gonna have a voice come the end of Saturday. But it'll be fine. Who's ready to get back into it? Um, Thank you for the hydration reminder. I'm gonna go with, hey Baxter, thanks for being so helpful with all of this. I like that one. Baxter didn't meet your gaze, his eyes wandering around the room as he gently swirled the champagne in his glass. He took another slow sip before answering, intentionally dramatic. You're welcome, Blake, although I feel very strongly that your gratitude is unnecessary. If anything, I should be thanking you for making me a part of it. I couldn't have devised a more pleasant way to spend my time here, even if I tried. And to be frank, I have tried. I didn't come to Sunset Bird totally devoid of any plans or ideas. You and your friends have invited me to participate in an event with great significance to you. It's a profound gesture to show to a relative stranger. When it's over and I'm long gone from here, I hope you can all look back on this party for years to come, maybe for the rest of your lives, and treasure the memory. And if I am a part of that memory, then that is satisfaction enough. Though perhaps I'm in danger of giving my contribution too much credit. He was smiling, but it was muted. But it was a muted, distant thing, like a car headlamp seen a long way off, ready to turn a corner. It felt akin to a farewell, even though he wasn't leaving yet. The glimmer was gone as his eyes met yours over the rim of his champagne flute. Besides, I'm on vacation. I have nothing but day after day of generous free time. It would be silly to begrudge its being used, especially as it's easier for me. This party is only a party from my perspective, which means I can put my head back and simply bask in the occasion with the highs and the lows. For you and your friends, this is important. It has weight. I have to say, I'm curious about the situation. You and Terry are both determined to make this a big event, but for all that, it seems a rather one-off affair. Not wishing to sound critical, but if you were in the regular habit of throwing each other parties, I would have expected better preparation for, well, the preparation. Is there something about this specific birthday that warranted such a special affair? You found yourself taken aback by this. I mean, that's a fair-ass question. We're not exactly acting like we've done this party thing before. It wasn't like you hadn't thought about it either. You'd been doing as much earlier tonight, but what with the rush to get all the ingredients and baking the cakes, you'd been distracted since then. All at once, the feelings you'd suppressed bubbled back up to the surface. Slowly, hesitantly, you began to talk. This might be the last birthday we get to celebrate together. I've known Cove basically my whole life. Terry and Randy not as long. Still, they're important to me. Soon we'll be grown up and we'll head off to different places in life. There's nothing we can do to change that, but Terry was so determined to go out with a bang, and I couldn't let her shoulder the burden on her own. We have to do what we can for each other, while we still can anyway. As he listened to your explanation, Baxter regarded you with a solemn expression. There was a pinch in his forehead where his eyebrows had come together. He was all sympathy. I'm sorry you're going through a difficult experience. I wish I knew how to alleviate matters. It's so uncertain. Sadly, there are few, if any, guarantees in the world. Or rather, such is the case for the vast majority of us. I can believe there are people who can remain close to each other in spite of distance and years between them. Those who will remain in your life anyways. His countenance had softened, a faint hopefulness lightening his face as moonlight on water. He spoke with tenderness. I believe you will find those kinds of people, Blake. I really do. And while nobody can say for sure, I'd bet that you already have. Stop it. I hope you can have someone like that as well. You're too kind. I'm a skeptic, so I won't hold my breath yet. But who can say what life has in store for us? Maybe it was partly due to the lateness of the hour, or the ordeal you were both wading through, but you were overcome with a strong surge of affection for Baxter. He'd be the first to play it down, but you knew the memories of your time with him were going to be precious indeed. You were grateful to have met him, you thought. There was a long pause. The only sound was the faint whisper of a car passing by, the gurgle of the fridge from the kitchen. Ah! The two of you jumped in surprise as Baxter's phone went off like a shot in the night. It was the alarm he'd set when you put the cakes in the freezer. He shakily turned it back off, getting up from his seat. After a few seconds hesitation, and then, well now, those cupcakes had better be ready for us. That had the vaguely dangerous quality of a threat, which was so absurd after the past few minutes that you couldn't help but giggle. After resting for a bit, you had found more energy. But this was it, the final stretch before the finish line. You left the living room and returned to the kitchen, where Baxter popped open the freezer door. Holy crap, Hunter, thank you so much for the gifted sub. I appreciate it. You got me to my fucking sub goal. Y'all are fucking phenomenal. Genuinely, thank you, thank you. Today we hit a follow goal and a sub goal, and I am just fucking shook. Holy nuggets. Yeah, Hunter, you've given 5 gift subs to the channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You retrieved the bowl of frosting and a plastic bag for piping, along with the tubes of glitter Terry had given you hours ago. We can each take half and do the frosting and dusting in one go, right? Wish me luck. I appreciate it, Hunter. Thank you, thank you. That sounds like a plan. It'll be fine. You both set about this last task with a grim determination. You worked quickly, not sharing any conversation or otherwise distracting from the job at hand. You frosted and dusted, each of the 36 cupcakes being lined up along the counter as they were completed. Oh, drat. Make that 35. The singleton Baxter dropped, splattered helpless on the kitchen floor. There was a break in the frosting, a moment of respect for cake now lost. Then you both shrugged. Not Baxter dropping one of the dudes. One extra cupcake wasn't about to make a world of difference, though Terry might have disagreed. What Terry didn't know wouldn't hurt her. When the surviving cupcakes had been properly outfitted with sugar, more sugar on top of the existing sugar to be precise, you stepped back to admire your creation. It was obvious that neither of you had any especial gift for the art of cake decoration, but hey, they'd probably still taste good, and that was the important thing, right? You two fished out 4 airtight plastic containers from a lower drawer and stashed the cupcakes inside. Lids were closed, boxes were in the fridge, and finally the door was shut. It was finished. You had survived. You checked the time. It was almost 2 in the morning. Yikes. You could have almost cried from joy. Baxter rubbed his tired eyes, then massaged his temples. I have a newfound respect for bakers everywhere. I shall look forward to having all my future life events professionally catered, even if it costs a fortune. Baxter is over it. Like, look at his face. He's done. He's like, never again in my fucking life, bro. He stared down at the miserable remains of the casualty cupcake on the tile. Never again. You laughed, the sight too funny for you to keep a straight face. Ignore the mess. I can take care of it. I'll see you back at your house. I fear your parents might be worried that you've been out so late. You reassured him that it was fine. Your moms knew you were just across the street, and you said it might take a while. You weren't concerned. Baxter was relieved to hear it. The journey home was a blur, a disconnected sequence of images. As promised, Baxter walked with you down the steps of his condo and across the road. You remembered the stars twinkling overhead, the clap of your shoes on the asphalt as you skipped along. You ambled through your childhood home in the dark by feel and instinct alone. You counted the stairs in silence, tiptoed into your room, approached the bed, and then you jerked awake with a start. There was a loud knocking coming from your bedroom door. Kiddo, you awake? You were in your bedroom. You were pretty sure about that anyway. 80% positive at least. You were too drowsy to come up with any more creative place to be. But besides the basic and likely fact of existing in your bedroom, you found that you hadn't the faintest idea what was going on. There'd been a voice, right? You remembered a voice. Terry phoned the house earlier, but you missed her. There it was again, your mom's voice. As you slowly blinked awake, realization came to you in stages. You recalled the events of yesterday. The lived sensations swam in your memory. A frantic afternoon of planning, of shopping, and of sugar. At some point you had ended up in your bed and asleep, but you didn't recall setting an alarm. Terry had said she'd pick you up at 7 this morning, so she was your wake-up call for the day. You poked your head out from beneath the blanket and called out, "I'm awake! I'm awake!" Standing in the middle of your room, your mind blanked. Then you scrunched up your face really tight and allowed your brain to form a coherent thought. Miranda's birthday. It was Miranda's birthday. You hastily changed into a fresh set of clothes, tried to tame your bedhead as best you could, and then raced downstairs. You bade your moms a quick farewell. "Have fun, sweetie." And say happy birthday to Miranda from us, okay? You had barely enough time to yell a quick thank you over your shoulder before you were out the front door. When you stepped outside, Cove was there waiting for you on the sidewalk. Aw, my ocean boy, I missed you. The number of times you'd left the house to find him there, it sometimes made you wonder if he lived on your sidewalk. What's up, Cove? He hadn't the faintest trace of sleepiness on him, but then Cove really rarely did. He was a tiny sun at any time of day, but mornings were when he shone the brightest. You exchanged your usual greetings, but rather than stop to chat, you kept on walking by. As you explained to him, the cakes were at Baxter's place, and you needed to go pick them up. Oh, all right. Cove didn't tag along, content to leave you to your own devices. That made sense. He wasn't yet at the point of seeking out Baxter's company willingly, and wasn't likely to start right now. When you knocked on Baxter's door, it popped right open like your meager taps had knocked it off its hinges. Hi, Baxter. Good morning. I've been expecting you. You had gotten that impression. He moved aside in the hallway to let you pass, and you strode briskly into the condo. He followed you into the kitchen, where you found the cakes in their containers, stacked on the countertop. The big day is, finally here. Excuse me. His composure had been broken with an enormous yawn, the size you hadn't seen since the coffee shop. Hey, I'm just wondering, what time did you go to bed last night? Truthfully, I didn't make it to bed. You weren't surprised by now. Baxter was just like that, but you still felt a pang of guilt. You were putting him through the ringer with this party. It's not an issue. I felt rather rough after I finished cleaning yesterday, and took the liberty of having a nice long shower. I also prefer to avoid going to bed with damp hair. But no sooner had I gotten dry than I realized I wouldn't be able to get any substantial amount of sleep before I needed to be up again anyway, so I stayed awake instead. You know what? I get that. I've done the same fucking thing where I've stayed up so late and had something to do the next day that I was like, it'll be easier for me to just stay up and then sleep when I'm done. Because the thing for me is, if I don't fall asleep by a certain point, then I know I'm not going to wake up to any alarms I have set. So rather than risk the chance of oversleeping, it's just easier for me sometimes to just power through and stay awake. So you know what? Respect, Baxter. I fucking get that. Is it ideal? Absolutely not. Sleep is ideal, but life is not always the ideal, as we know. I love him. Even so, maybe try to take a nap sometime today. For real, that. I'll see what I can do. Enough about me. Let's take these delicacies outside and wait for Terry. She texted me earlier to let me know she was on her way. I imagine you received a similar message. Terry had indeed sent you a message, although it was too early in the day to be hit with something with so many exclamation points. How much sleep had she gotten? He picked up 2 of the waiting boxes, leaving you to carry the remainder. You didn't linger, heading straight for the front entrance. Baxter came out behind you with the key. He had trouble with the logistics, eventually resorting to balancing the containers in one hand like a serving tray, before closing and locking the door with the other. I loved them. Back on the street, Cove was still loitering on the street down by the front gate, blissfully unaware of what the secret party planning committee had gone through for this. Baxter called over to him, full of characteristic good cheer. "Good morning, neighbor." "I love him." "Hey." Cove's response was quiet, more distracted than aloof. He was peering with interest at the boxes you were carrying. He had hopes about their contents. "Cove, I love you. These aren't for you quite yet, though." The plastic was kind of foggy and translucent, so it wasn't quite possible to tell what was inside. But Cove intuited that, whatever it was edible. The boy was like a shark sometimes. My friend, you are looking at 35 of the finest freshly baked chocolate cupcakes with cream cheese frosting." Cove's face visibly lit up at the word cake, as if he'd been offered one already. "That's great. I believe Terry is also bringing a proper birthday cake from home as well." Cove's smile grew even wider. You hoped Baxter was taking notes. "The way to a man's heart is through his stomach" was a phrase you suspected had originally been written about Cove. The promise of treats was far and away the most exciting aspect of any party, at least for him. Your childhood companion was so silly, you thought. He'd provided you with most of a lifetime's worth of entertainment for free. In fact, someone had tried to pay you to have it. Those won't be the only sweets either. There's going to be a chocolate fountain, too. Cove's mouth formed a perfectly round O, and you thought you could see sparkles in his eyes. Or maybe they were sprinkles. "What are you guys bringing to dip in it? Strawberries? Marshmallows? Banana slices? Pretzels?" While Cove was busy listing off every single item he thought might reasonably taste good drenched in liquefied chocolate, it struck you that you didn't know what the answer to the question was. Was Terry handling that? Were you supposed to have thought of something? You exchanged a nervous glance with Baxter, who shifted uncomfortably from one foot to the other. Very not good. Baxter didn't have a clue either, which could only mean that you had never even discussed the matter with Terry yesterday. It was the cupcake quantity quandary all over again. Your shoulders slumped. You had honestly never anticipated organizing a party would involve coordinating so many different things. Your mind simply couldn't keep track of it all. Seeing your distress, Baxter slipped into his usual mode of cool cucumberness. "Let's think about this. Terry took the fountain home with her, and so we can sensibly assume that she had taken charge of it, and, by extension, the offerings to dip into the fountain." "Thank you for the hydrate reminder." "That makes sense. Okay." Look at Baxter having logic and stuff. However, time isn't on our side, and luck has not been either. In order to be 100% absolutely crystal clear about the matter, we should text her and ask. Although, if she's currently driving. He trailed off, a hint of anxiety managing to mar even his carefully schooled demeanor. You all exchanged a new set of nervous glances, Cove joining in this time. This problem was one even he could worry about. We should grab stuff. Our houses are right here, and you know what Terry's like. If she knew what she was gonna do, she would have said so already. Baxter inclined his head in agreement, bending down to place his box of cakes on the ground near the condo's front entrance. Then he straightened, pulling himself up to his full height. We are going to go to our homes to retrieve some suitable samplers. Terry will arrive and take us to the venue, and there will be no further problems. His voice resonated with a forceful air of finality. This was perhaps the closest you'd seen Baxter to losing his temper. Then he added as an afterthought, unless, of course, we are hit by a car on the way there. But quite frankly, it will be too much. But quite frankly, I will be much too tired to care about dying by then. Let's settle this. He was right. It had to be done. You simply put down your box of cupcakes next to Baxter's. Then the three of you made a run for it, each going your separate ways. Oh, that's good. Yeah, just dip the cupcakes in the... That's an idea. Yeah, just dip the cupcakes in. Problem solved. Although having something else would probably be good. You dashed over the road and hopped inside your house, heading directly for the kitchen. You opened the cabinets at random, racking your brain for anything to bring. What would go in a chocolate fountain? You wished you'd paid more attention to what Cove had been saying earlier, though you did remember to swipe the bunch of ripe bananas off the counter. Then you hit the jackpot on the highest shelf of your family's cupboard. Back outside, the three of you examined the spoils of your impromptu raiding party. There were several types of assorted fruits, marshmallows, some cookies, pretzels, and a box of granola bars. The last item, one of Cove's, had Baxter chuckling under his breath. I have to say, I've never heard of granola bars being dipped in a fountain before, chocolate or otherwise. It was either that or the protein bars. No, this is good. It will be a novel addition, not to mention easy for people to hold without a utensil. Besides, I hardly contributed at all. He gestured a little timidly at the bag of salted pretzels, his sole addition to the haul. It was all he'd had to bring. You'd saved the day by finding your mom's and Liz's special treats, 3 types of cookies and big marshmallows. They'd have to sacrifice for this event as everyone else did. Right. I brought some bags along to put everything in. I can carry those while you two handle the cakes. You and Baxter both praised Cove's quick thinking and gratefully dumped everything into the bags he held out. Then you gathered up the boxes of cupcakes. You mingled about, making idle conversation about the upcoming party and trading some anecdotes with Cove about the baking process from the night before. He was especially mournful to hear about the accident that had claimed the 36th cupcake. But soon there was the telltale sound of a vehicle approaching at speed. The Brooks van pulled up alongside you, and the horn honked loudly in greeting. Terry had arrived. You could see the enormous grin on her face through the front windshield. She enthusiastically stuck her arm out of the driver's window and waved. Cove beamed and waved back. I'll get the door. He pulled open the sliding side door, jumping inside and striking up a conversation with Terry immediately. You clambered in after him. The car was normally spacious, but since you'd filled it up with party equipment yesterday, it'd gotten cramped. You made room for the additional food wherever you could. Hey buds, you ready to make like an RPG and party up? Not really. Were you ready to have a chocolate fountain? What did you bring to dip in it? Being subjected to this accusation right out of the gate knocked Terry completely off her stride. Her expression was utterly baffled. Cove, how do you know about the chocolate fountain? I almost forgot we even had a chocolate fountain. Then Terry clapped a hand to her forehead, her eyes wide. Oh shoot, I forgot to bring stuff for the chocolate fountain. As I casually mute for my sneeze, ninja-like stealth, just there we go, hooray. Also, ouch for my ribs. Where was I? Terry started panicking, but Baxter promptly headed that off at the pass with a casual rap of his knuckles against the external wall of the van. Also, thank you. Stupid sneeze. He leaned in through the side door, having stopped short of climbing inside after you and Cove. No need to worry about it, Terry. We thought that might have happened, so we took the liberty of bringing along some offerings of our own. You guys got the goods? Yep, right here. Cove held up one of the bags of extra supplies he was still clutching, jiggling it enticingly. Terry placed a hand heavily to her heart. Crap, you're my saviors, but don't scare me like that. I thought this party was a bust. Do you know how many times I've thought that in the last 12 hours? You're lucky you're not doing this by yourself, Terry. Oh yeah, you got that right. Remind me to treat you to something once this is all over. Deal. Hold on. You barely did anything yet, Cove. So, he is present now, and it was thanks to him we realized what was amiss. Cove speaks for us all, I think. You have yourself a deal, Terry. Fine. Slowly but surely, you felt some of the stress from the last several hours fade away in the company of your friends. Maybe this whole thing would work out all right in the end. Baxter gently tapped the side of the vehicle again to grab everyone's attention. With that safely out of the way, I'll part with you three here. I'm going to drive along behind in my own car, if that's all right. Okay, sure. That's cool with me, man. Terry didn't really get what Baxter was doing, but she wasn't about to start raising objections. A brief glance at the two of you confirmed that neither you nor Cove had a clue between you either. Splendid. I'll see you very soon. He punctuated his farewell by shutting the van door, leaving you and Cove to buckle yourselves in. Terry watched in the rearview mirror as Baxter approached his vehicle and got inside. Once he'd fastened his seatbelt and flashed her a quick thumbs up, she put the van in drive and pulled out. Baxter followed suit, and the four of you were off. You sat with the boxes of cupcakes stacked precariously in your lap, your arms wrapped around the sides to prevent the tower from toppling. You were hyper-aware of every last dip and bump in the familiar roads like you'd never been before. As you went along, Terry laid out the plan for when you arrived. So the idea is to make sure we get all the snacks and drinks and that stuff ready first, in case we miss anything. Anything else. Then we've got to decorate everything as fast as physically possible before noon, basically. That's when people should start showing up. We're gonna order some sandwich platters and salad bowls and stuff on delivery. Those should be there for people to eat along with the cake, sorta like a late lunch. Oh, and by we, I mean Randy's mom and dad. We're off the hook for that part. She threw her head back and whooped with glee, a sound that was pure and clear as the morning. You felt her infectious enthusiasm. She continued. Anyways, Randy doesn't want to have her party drag on forever, and we'll need time to clean up before the place closes, so we're gonna wrap things up with the event before dinner. When the guests are gone, we'll have until 10 before we'll get kicked out of the room. Now I won't sugarcoat it, or even chocolate coat it, team. It's gonna be another long day for all of us. Just don't forget, Randy's gonna be amazed, and it'll all be worth the effort. I just know it. You closed your eyes, leaning back against the seat of the van. Terry was speaking the truth, of course, about all of it. It was another grueling day. It was to be another grueling day. But you had your friends, and you were grateful to be huddling in the back of a van, surrounded by a mountain of bags and 35 cupcakes in your lap. To be alive, to be there. You might have been in some danger of falling asleep again, sitting down for too long. But before you nodded off, Terry was parking the van in the lot outside a large building. It looked like it hosted generic offices rather than parties. You couldn't judge a book by its cover, apparently. We're here! Everybody out! Thank you so much for the raid, oh my goodness. I appreciate it. Holy nuggets! Hi, what's up, friends? How we doing? I'm going to take a quick note of who just raided me so that I can try and raid you in the future. I would love to be able to reciprocate the raid sometime. Okie dokie. Where the heck were we? On command, you and Cove dutifully climbed out of the van. Baxter was pulling up in his car, having managed to stick close to Terry the whole way. When your group had reassembled, there was a brief re-exchange of greetings. Terry wasn't in the mood to dawdle and clapped her hands together. Time to get moving, people. We've got a whole party truck to unload. Aye, aye, Captain. I love Baxter. What he said. Sure. You and Terry carried your respective desserts while Cove and Baxter worked together to take a folded table from the back of the van. Terry led the way to the rented room. You peeked your head around the cupcake container and got your first look at the party space. Aw, it's so cute in here. Stop, this place is adorable. Yeah, I like it. I do see what Terry was saying about it being all pretty and pink. Definitely pretty, definitely pink. And the little lights, and the little dance floor, I see you. It seriously was perfect for this, and exactly as Terry had originally described, shiny, pretty, and pink. On Terry's direction, the boys put the table down in what would eventually be the refreshment section of the party. They extended the legs and flipped it upright. Once it was stable on its feet, Baxter was quick to cover the surface with one of the golden tablecloths. It was ready to go. Ever so carefully, you set your plastic chest of bejeweled consumables down. When the opaque lids came off, the revealed frosted tops were still intact. Hell yeah. I also think it's kind of funny because back in, I think it was step 2, we went to a cookout or whatever, and I remember the character making comments about Ma being protective of her cupcakes, and now it's gone like full circle, and we have in turn done the whole cupcake stressy thing. They are frosted little babies. We love them. And we kept them safe for the whole ride. On closer inspection, you could tell a few cupcakes on the left of the container were slightly smushed, but the glitter coating hadn't rubbed off, so no one else would notice the imperfection. Ah! Terry's gleeful exclamation came from over your shoulder. She'd caught sight of your and Baxter's handiwork. That's what I'm talking about. The white cake with bits of rainbow confetti in her hands was the one element that was out of place with the theme. It was entirely unglamorous, a relic of more childlike birthdays. But that's why you were certain Miranda would adore it. She hadn't completely outgrown old favorites. Terry put it next to the cupcakes and gave you a big thumbs up. You had everything you needed, and the biggest potential disasters had been avoided. You could focus on the rest of the preparation work with confidence. The whole secret party planning committee went for another run of supply gathering. Another table and piles of plastic bags were brought into the venue. On the third round, everything had made it inside. You'd carried a red cooler filled with chilled sparkling cider. Terry hid that under the covered table until later. Then all four of you sat around the lit up dance floor, taking stuff out of bags and sorting it into piles. Things for food on one half of the room, decorations on the other. Terry and Cove were both cross-legged. Baxter kept his legs stretched out. It was kinda like being a kid on Christmas, except instead of opening gifts, it was things you'd have to set up, and instead of piles of wrapped paper all around, it was plastic thank you shopping bags. Thank you for shopping bags. You still had plenty of fun, especially after it was somehow decided that Cove Holden was the perfect hook for the feather boas. One after another was tossed over his shoulders and into his lap until he looked like a multicolored big bird. Cove accepted the assignment with only a moderate amount of complaining. When the supplies were completely unpacked, Terry surveyed the collection of plates, napkins, utensils, plastic cups, and such. She announced that she'd handle the snack and drink arrangements. She delegated you, Baxter, and Cove to do everything else with the room. After a salute, Terry left the circle and headed to her station. From under his cloak of feathers, Cove got busy snapping off tags and removing casings. You and Baxter followed his lead. The empty bags were repurposed for holding trash. Peacefully and productively, your little team worked away on different tasks, until a groan of frustration echoed through the air. You glanced towards the opposite side of the room. Terry was shaking the chocolate fountain like she was trying to get a prize to fall out of it. Oh boy. Technical difficulties? Baxter stated the obvious. Everyone in the room was aware of Terry's struggles. Not to worry, I have a bit of experience with those beasts. I should be able to offer assistance. He announced his intentions as he got up. There wasn't much left that had packaging, and you wanted to make sure everything was all right, so you decided to go see Terry too. Cove was left to hold down the fort. He shrugged, and one of the boas slipped down his back. You crossed the floor together, and with a wave, Baxter spoke out to the woman hunched over a table. Hello. Terry sprung up at the sound. Her face was despairing, and she skipped right past the greeting. I don't know if it's just me, but when I play this, if it like changes and adds someone here, I have to like move my mouse because I don't want to be clicking on them even though they're just a character. I'm like, I don't want to click on them. That feels rude. How do you use this thing? You add the chocolate and it's supposed to go, right? 'Cause it's not going. Baxter pursed his lips and cocked a hip, considering. Basically, yes. You add the melted chocolate into the machine and turn it on. It takes a minute but should start to flow. We can troubleshoot. Wait, the melted chocolate? She released her clutch on the fountain. Doesn't it melt when you put it in? A pinch of frustration made Baxter wince. It was only momentary. Then he was smiling placatingly. He had to deliver bad news as pleasantly as possible. To use a chocolate fountain, the chocolate must be melted ahead of time. It won't cook in the machine. Those novelties aren't that sophisticated. What? I didn't know that. I didn't know that either, to be fair. Who the heck knows how a chocolate fountain works? It wasn't the worst assumption. I didn't know that you didn't know that. I should have asked. I should have known. I should have been the one to set it up in the first place. Baxter's regrets grew and grew. You've never used one before, and I have. The both of them dropped their faces with a sigh, though the dramatics of their actions were on entirely different levels. Baxter's dejection was subtle, restrained. Meanwhile, Terry couldn't have exaggerated her misery more. After Baxter used his own money to get it, and all the trouble you went to finding treats that could be used in it, the fountain ended up a useless metal tower. There has to be some way to make that thing work. You are absolutely right. Baxter straightened himself up. Like an actual professional, he viewed the situation from an objective distance and could give perspective to the more emotionally attached Terry. It's not too late quite yet. This is a temporary hitch. I will take the chocolate somewhere it can be melted and come back. I'll need some way to keep it warm during the trip. Perhaps a thermos would work? Would you be able to find a thermos and melt chocolate before the party starts? He chuckled, a hand over his mouth. That is highly unlikely, but all you need to do is enjoy other parts of the event first. Dance, drink, eat one of the lovely cupcakes. Then he flicked his wrist, gesturing away from his face. I'll return at some point during the evening, and the fountain will go up then. We can even act as if it was intentional to bring it out later. Yoda and the ferrets are doing good. Everybody's taking a little nap right now. Just me. Ideally, the fountain can accompany the serving of the cake. No one has to know it was a problem factor. Thank you, Baxter. He inclined his head humbly, all the while grinning. As flexible as I usually prefer to be, there are some situations where I can be surprisingly stubborn. This is one of them. Terry gripped her chest, overcome by such loyalty and dedication. B-Man, you are the man. We'll finish getting ready and keep the party going until you make it. Excellent. Good luck. See you later, Baxter. It couldn't be understated what a stroke of luck it was to have someone like Baxter Ward on committee. I love this. This is cute. Take care. With that, he sauntered out of the room, a bag of unmelted chocolate in his hand and a smile on his face. In time with the shutting of the door, Terry smacked her palm against the table definitively. This is gonna be the best party I've ever done no matter what, 'cause it's gonna be the only party I'll ever throw. Never again. Never again seems to be a common phrase being thrown around with this party planning. Just saying. Next time, somebody else is gonna have to be in charge. I'll just help. Baxter kind of is already in charge, he said, snickering. Nah, if he was, the chocolate fountain would be going already. Yeah, that's true. You laughed even more. She laughed too. Come on, Blake. He's not gonna let us down, and we can't stop either. Let's finish this. Yeah. Oh, hi, Cove. He spun around only to come face to face with a fluffy Cove. He'd buried himself further in the feather boas and began fiddling with the balloon he must have inflated. Right. Cove was left to wait alone the entire time. He stared awkwardly, as did Terry. Is everything all right? We can only hope, Cove. We can only hope. Okay. Cove left it at that, not any more informed or assured. And so, the party decorating continued with one less person. More balloons were blown up and placed about, streamers were strung up, and you even moved a bench from a corner to the center stage. It would act as a makeshift throne for the Queen of the Day. Finally, all the trash bags were carted out of the event and tossed into a dumpster outside. The three of you returned and stood in the center of the now cleared dance floor to admire your handiwork. Wall to wall, floor to ceiling, the room gleamed. Aw, this is so cute! Y'all did such a good job! I love this. This is fucking adorable. It looks good. It does. It actually does. Terry was beaming wider than you'd ever seen. After a day and a half of almost non-stop preparations, you'd pulled off something pretty great. It was certainly a homemade arrangement by a group of friends at the last minute, but that was half of the charm. Your efforts were easy to see. You sat in a row along the edge of the stage, resting, waiting before the big event. No one talked. Cove tapped his foot. Until finally, Terry's phone went off. Ah! She read the message fervently. She murmured in haste. It's from Jude. The guests are arriving. I repeat, the guests are arriving. It's party time, buddies! Miranda, her siblings, her parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, and other people, they're gonna be in this room any minute. Be ready. Terry shot from the back of the room to the front in a matter of seconds. She hit the music on. Oh my goodness, the little bench, the little presents, the little glasses. I adore this. This is so fucking cute. Hold on. We've been at this for a fat minute. We deserve to enjoy that for a second. That is cute as hell. I absolutely adore this. This is fucking precious. She then strung a few bags along her arms. Those ones hadn't been used for trash. Cove put the accessories in them for safekeeping, after he was done wearing all the boas himself, of course. With that hanging over her, Terry stood and waited at the entrance. You and Cove joined her. Noises could be heard on the other side. Cove's hands clenched. Terry clasped onto his shirt like she was about to meet her maker. Then the door slowly began to open. On the other side, a small crowd was huddled together. At the head of it was Miranda herself. Oh my gosh! The dazzling pink party room was reflected in Miranda's big, sparkling eyes. Terry threw her bag-laden arms into the air. None of them fell off, fortunately. Surprise! 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 As spoken, Miranda was overcome with surprise. Terry and Blake and Cove. Hey Jojo, how are you? I miss you. We still got a little bit to go, I think. This is so fucking cute. I'm obsessed. That's right. What do you think of your party this year? Terry queried her friend eagerly, though the quickness of the question was partially motivated by a discreet anxiety. Miranda blinked, and she knew. Her family weren't the ones who put on this event. She answered with wholehearted appreciation. I love it. It's amazing. Way nicer than I ever would have thought. And we surprised you? You really didn't know what we were up to? You're not just being nice? You definitely got me. I didn't think this much would happen. Especially since it's not my 18th birthday or 21st or anything like that. It's only 19. What? All your birthdays are a big deal. Stop, that's so fucking cute. Not all your birthdays are a big deal. Yeah, I'm still going, still chugging along. Randy giggled at Terry's assertion. While her eyes were closed, you and Terry shared a look. This party was more important than Miranda realized. Also, thank you for the hydrate. I can't remember if I said it. Sorry, my brain is like smoking. Considering we're going to be entering hour 3 here because I don't think we're wrapped up. We still got a whole party to get through. Thanks a ton. This is exactly what I wanted, and I didn't even know it. Cove let out a relieved breath. Terry pumped a fist victoriously, and the bags she was holding flung around. Miranda's secret birthday bash was a hit. More and more guests gathered and wandered about. They openly admired the room. Terry nodded, pleased. It's party time! Let's use the stuff we got. She dumped the contents of each sack on an empty end of a table for everyone to access. A bunch of sunglasses clattered out with the boas. On top of the pile was the white one. Terry stashed that in a bag and threw it under the tablecloth. You mentally gave her your thanks for the save. That was obviously for Baxter and nobody else. Miranda gave a clap. It was one delight after another today. Aw, look at these guys. I love them. I love you, Bean. I'll see you soon. Ah. Harry sported sunglasses and a purple feather boa. Cove just went for a pair of sunglasses. He'd had enough of wearing those boas already. That's valid. Or maybe it wasn't any fun when he was only allowed to take one. He managed to fit them over his regular glasses. Miranda got her own oversized shades, but instead of a boa, she was granted the special birthday girl sash to set her apart from all the other attendees. You know what? Fuck it. Go for both of them. You donned a boa and sunglasses. This made you feel like a glamorous diva from that interactive play. Nice, nice. All decked out for the party, Terry directed Miranda's attention to what else was on the tables. She was charmed anew when she saw the awaiting rows of fake champagne and outright stunned when her eyes landed on the display of glittery cupcakes. Hell yeah, she likes the cupcake, let's go! That's so pretty! Did you buy those? Nope, they're homemade. Really? They look like they're from a pro bakery. Let me just puff up here with pride real quick, because damn right Baxter and I did fucking good. Thank you. Can I have one now, or are we waiting until it's time for cake? Miranda, it's your birthday. You can decide. She beamed. It was time for the queen to make her decree. Then I declare that we can all eat cupcakes right now. What a gracious hostess. Works for me. In unison, the three of them reached out for a treat. Yeah, I'm gonna eat a cupcake. Give me one. And bit into it right away. The fluffy cake and creamy frosting were delicious, and all the sweeter knowing how much work had gone into it. Terry licked the shiny frosting first. That was most intriguing to her. Miranda broke the bottom of the cupcake off and stuck it onto the frosting to make a cupcake sandwich before she took a bite. She'd seen it in a video one time and done it since. I mean, the cupcake sandwiches are valid as hell, though. Cove crammed half the dessert into his mouth at once. I guess there are always types of people. They each had their own unique way of enjoying their confection, but enjoy it they did. It was too bad Baxter wasn't there to see the results of your shared labor. You'd have to at least let him know all the trouble wasn't in vain. While the snacking occurred, you caught sight of Jude in the crowd of guests. He'd tied a blue boa around his forehead. The feathers hung down and partially covered his eyes. But his bangs were so long, his view was always partially obstructed, so it didn't make that much difference. Miranda's mom, dad, and her two older sisters were going around the room taking pictures and videos. Whenever the cameras ended up pointed in their general direction, Terry and Miranda posed like superstars. Seeing the entire Eckert family enjoy themselves really made the effort worth the while. The cupcakes were finished and crumbs were wiped away. Then, hand in hand, Terry and Miranda hit the dance floor. Cove's hand, meanwhile, hovered over the platter of cupcakes. He considered taking another, but closed his fingers into a fist. He'd resisted the temptation. He jerked his head in the direction of your friends, encouraging you to come with. Cove left the snack table to toe the edge of the lit-up floor. He didn't go an inch past the border. Clapping and calling out to Miranda and Terry was as much partying as he was capable of. Join in with Miranda and Terry. Be a goofy little dancer. I want a cupcake too, for real. The two threw their hands in the air when you rushed over. Miranda screeched and Terry chanted your name when you moved with the music. More and more guests crowded onto the bright lights at the center, like moths to a flame. Terry whipped and twirled her boa, and Miranda's sunglasses kept almost flying off her face with the quick-footed moves she was pulling. After a couple songs, Terry dragged Miranda to the front so she could sit in the throne you'd prepared for her. Time for a cheer! Being the center of attention normally embarrassed Randy, but today she could ignore those inclinations. Wait there, Randy. Cove, help me get the drinks around. She searched for you over the sea of people and winked when your eyes met. You gotta make up for not helping at all yesterday. Fine. In his defense, he had work. It's not like he missed it on purpose. They got to it, pouring and then passing drinks around the room. Cove offered one from the first batch to you. A grim-faced lady saw what was going on and silently helped give out the glasses of fake champagne. She knew the drill without being told. You recognized the woman from prior Miranda bashes. It was nice seeing her again, even though you'd barely said 2 words to each other in all these years of attending the same birthdays. Thanks to the efforts of those 3, most people had a cup ready to go. At the front stage, Terry passed the guest of honor a glass too. It was time. To the B-Day, girl! Happy birthday, Miranda! Dozens of sparkling drinks glimmered under the shining lights as they were raised in a toast. People drank and clinked glasses with whoever they were rubbing elbows with. Tap Cove's cup. He smacked your glass with his in tandem. Overcome by the excitement permeating the room, it spilled a little. Oops. Oof, Cove. Good thing those cups weren't actually glass. You took a sip. It was intensely sugary, and the bubbles pleasantly tickled your throat. It was as if the entire essence of the party, the thrills and the sweetness, had been distilled into a drink. With a half-full plastic champagne glass, Miranda leapt up from her seat off the stage and landed in the crowd on the dance floor. That got a second round of cheering. Terry followed right after, and the celebrating resumed in full force. You were part of the crowd, jumping to the beat. Cove still didn't quite dance himself, but he did bop his head to the music and tap a foot. Like the cupcakes, you all relished the moment in your own ways. That afternoon was the party to end all parties, for better or worse. The music and cider flowed without stopping until... Yo, Randy! Miranda's big brother slipped through the few cracks in the wall of dancers until he reached the heart of the floor. Food's here. It's cake time. Yay! Miranda gave a final gleeful twirl on her tiptoes. The birthday sash fluttered. Terry waved Cove over. Let's eat. The gang reunited back at the refreshment tables. My guy! I love him. And there, along with Miranda's parents, setting out the sandwich platters for lunch, was another figure. A distinctly monochrome figure. He acted entirely at ease behind the table, busy doing a final check over a chocolate fountain. It was flipped on, and slowly, liquefied chocolate began to trickle out. Baxter did it. Let's fucking go. Is that Baxter? Miranda peered closer. She'd come face to face with an unexpected acquaintance in a gathering of the people she knew best. Yep, he was here before, too. Oh, why is he setting up a chocolate fountain for my birthday party? Terry's hands went to her hips and she came out with the whole story. B-Man was a crucial member of the secret party planning group who made this whole thing happen. Party does seem to be going great, and Baxter did wonderful. I love him. The guy. Mission fucking successful, bro. What? Really? Miranda looked back and forth between Baxter and Terry, at a loss. Baxter is nice, and I think he can't stand to see an event fail spectacularly or something. But for whatever reason, he wanted to help out. He took us to the store to get the supplies, made cupcakes, put up decorations, and did just about everything for that chocolate fountain. It almost had to be nixed like 3 times. Baxter kept his professionally polite demeanor for the entire conversation, despite the fact that he had to have heard what they were talking about. Feigning innocence, he came around to the other side of the table to properly greet the guest of honor. Hello, happy birthday. Thank you. She barely knew what to say after finding out exactly how much he contributed. But her gaze dropped and she tugged at the sash self-consciously. A minute before, she was the life of the party, embracing the cheesy glitz with gusto. But in front of him, she felt childish. Baxter gave a considerate smile. You should be able to manage the fountain now that it's running. I hope the rest of the party will be a lovely time. You're leaving already? Yeah, wait, Baxter, what are you talking about, dude? Her question was barely a peep. She had to muster all her confidence to say that much. Yes, my job is done. I was here only for that. Wait, no, Baxter, Don't just leave. What? It was as if the floor dropped out from under you. Baxter had worked as hard as anyone else to make this party happen. He pulled an all-nighter for it, and he was just going to leave? But what could you say against it? Of course he couldn't invite himself to Miranda's surprise birthday party, and she never had a chance to give him permission to attend. Staring at him, he was as unruffled as ever. Baxter knew all along he wouldn't get to experience the results of the hard work and did it anyways. But, well... She released her hold on the accessory and looked into Baxter's face directly. It was really thoughtful of you to do all this. You should stay and enjoy the party too. You are a gracious host. His words held sincere appreciation at the welcome extended. Enough to get your hopes up. But I can't do that. The rejection was equally amiable. That didn't make it less disappointing. You don't owe me anything. Certainly not a place among your real friends at your birthday party. There's no reason to feel guilty. Now, if you'll excuse me, take care. With a kindly wave that left no room for further arguments, Baxter breezed past your group. That was it. He was gone. Terry began to frown at some point. She had been willing to do anything to make Miranda's birthday great, but it came at a greater cost than she'd thought. Terry piled job after job on Baxter's shoulders because he was just another part of the group in her mind. She'd realized too late that he wasn't and never had been. Cove could only silently rub the scar on his left arm. And worst of all, Randy's cheer hadn't returned after Baxter's vanishing act was completed. He'd earnestly wished for her to be happy, but it was understandably hard to get into the celebratory spirit after that kind of revelation. It shouldn't have to end like that. It didn't have to end like that. You wouldn't let it end like that. If Baxter wasn't going to be at Miranda's birthday, there had to be something else he could be part of. You mentally grappled with the problem and cast your eyes about, trying to grasp any hint of an idea. Then something Terry said earlier came back to you. Terry? All three of the others glanced your way. It was the first crack in the awkward silence, and that was enough for Cove and Miranda to also take an interest. Yeah? Could you do me a favor? Are you kidding? I owe you my life for making sure this wasn't a disaster. I'll help you out with whatever you want. I'll help too if there's something I can do. Thanks. Miranda's birthday will be going for just a couple more hours. It'll be done way before the place closes, and Terry said we've got the room for the entire day. So tonight, after all the other guests are gone, let's use this venue for an after party. No, a totally different party. Another party? He tilted his head incredulously. Yeah, another party. Not a birthday. It could be our very own. We gotta call it Summer Soiree. We have to. That's too fucking cute. And it can be for just our group. Me, Randy, Terry, Cove, and Baxter. We could try and set aside some of the food and drinks for later, clean up the mess when everyone is left, and we'll have slow music at this event. You know how much he wanted to dance, and I'd do that with him. Well, given the fact we did it at the soiree, I'd say you knew how to dance well enough anyway. Yeah. The first to affirm the idea was the one originally most trepidatious about Baxter being there, but she answered with confidence. I'll be a member of the secret planning party committee for this surprise. If he can do it for me, I can do it for him. And maybe Terry was right. We could all use more friends. Aw, I love Miranda hopping on board. Stop. My whole fucking heart, bro. Cove did not look convinced at all, though couldn't disagree with the main suggestion. Okay. A wide grin pulled at Terry's face, seeing this new plan forming. We should catch him before he's gone. He might not get the message if he escapes now. Good idea. Thanks, everyone. He rushed through the guests coming in on all sides, clamoring for their lunch. Bursting out of the party room was like waking from a dream. The pink extravaganza was replaced by a plain white hallway, and the only sounds were your own footsteps echoing off the linoleum floors. You'd been able to forget the normal world for a while, but had been there the entire time, going on as usual on the other side of the door. But Baxter wasn't there either. You kept going, through the lobby and into the parking lot. His hair might have fit in with the black tarmac and white painted lines, but the camouflage couldn't fool you. He was at the end of the row, moments away from getting into his car. Baxter! He turned around at the sound of your voice. Pushing yourself further, you shot down the wide open space. Blake, did something happen? Wait, please tell me it is not the chocolate fountain again. Your gait had slowed immensely in the final feet, and you came to a stumbling stop in front of Baxter. He waited patiently for an answer. Nothing is wrong. Well, that's a relief. You could have fooled me, however. You shouldn't be running out of the building if there are no issues. Go enjoy the damned fountain. Baxter's grin was teasing, harmless, though you didn't miss the layer of genuine frustration at the stupid machine after all the trouble it had caused. He smoothed his face and shirt out in fluid motions. I'll be fine. Perhaps I'll take a nap, I'm going back. I just have to ask you something first. I see. I'm all ears. Okay, so I know you've already done a lot for this party and us, but if you're not too exhausted, could you come here again tonight, around 7 p.m.? Baxter's almost unshakable smile was lost in suspicion. Not good. This was a surprise you were planning. You threw out the first cover that popped into your head before he could speak the obvious question on the tip of his tongue. The thing is, I don't want to ride home with Terry. Oh. It worked? His expression softened. It worked. Baxter was convinced you needed him. All doubts were settled. Look at him face. He said, "Oh, you need a ride home? I got it." Certainly, Blake. I'll be here at 7 on the dot. Give his hand a quick squeeze. Your fingers curled around his in an appreciative hold. It was only for a second, but his warmth lingered even after, and so did the sparkle in his dark eyes. Thanks. I'll see you soon. Yes, you will. Baxter parted from you yet again, but as you saw him off, you felt good about it. This time, him leaving didn't mean he was simply gone. It meant you'd have time to prepare for his return. You found your way to the party room just in time to sing happy birthday. Sliding alongside the rest of the group, you acted as if you'd never left. Cove chuckled and quietly welcomed you back. Terry's confetti cake was placed in front of Randy at the head of the table. The 19 candle you picked up from the store yesterday was lit by her dad. When she blew it out, the room filled with cheers. Her friends and family ate sandwiches, salad, and cake. The chocolate fountain was a huge hit too, thank goodness. Miranda, Cove, Terry, and yourself each squirreled away a plate of extra desserts and snacks for the secret party. Soon guests got a second wind, and more dancing commenced. And this time, even Cove stepped onto the lit dance floor. Every single one of you could enjoy yourself to the fullest now, and you did for the final couple hours of the party. When it got closer to dinner time, guests began to trickle out little by little. Many of them came by to hug Miranda and wish her the best once more. That was how Miranda's 19th birthday concluded, and how the preparation for the summer soiree began. You informed the team on when Baxter would be arriving and how they couldn't dally. The 4 of you, plus Miranda's parents and siblings, cleaned up the trash and took down the decorations that indicated a birthday was going on. One of the tables in the sound system was left in place for the summer soiree. You also recovered the white boa from under the table where Terry had hid it earlier. It was still in pristine condition. Perfect. At 6:50, Miranda kindly used the last of her birthday girl power to ask her family to get out of there so her friends could have their own party. The Eckert family accepted, being kicked to the curb, and graciously made themselves scarce. Jude held up a peace sign as he shut the door behind himself and the rest of the folks taking their leave. At 6:55, you double-checked the dance floor for any debris. It was spotless. At 6:58, you wandered about the room, trying to pick out the best place to stand and wait. Terry teasingly wondered aloud if that's what she looked like before Randy arrived. It was. At exactly 7, the door cracked open. "Excuse me, may I come in?" He's so freaking sweet, I can't. Being all polite and well-mannered and shit, like, stop it. Unsure of what he was walking into, Baxter paused at the precipice. "Yeah, we've been waiting." That was all the encouragement needed. Baxter came into the party room. He smiled graciously at the cluster of people silently standing ahead of him. Cove leaned over stiffly like a balloon slowly deflating. He whispered awkwardly into your ear. "What are we supposed to say now? Are we shouting surprise for this?" Surprise! 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 Yeah, surprise. The unexpected, not to mention delayed, exclamation at his entrance gave Baxter a start. "How good of you to come, Baxter." With the way Terry rubbed her hands together and the vague sense of satisfaction in her tone, she was giving the impression he'd fallen into a nefarious trap. "Now all the guests have finally arrived, and we can begin." "What do you mean? I should think the guests have left by this point." Baxter had a generously low level of confusion at the strangeness, merely raising his brow rather than making a hasty retreat. Even though Baxter would probably be the last person you knew who'd be scared off by villainous shenanigans, you decided to avoid any potential misunderstandings. "We've been waiting to start the summer soiree." Summer soiree, you say? You've got it. This event is Miranda's birthday, no more. She dramatically crossed her arm over the other, and flung them outwards as if swearing off the entire concept of a birthday. Terry had to rent this room for the entire day, even though we only needed it until the middle of the afternoon. So we decided to use the last few hours we had here to have another party, one that's for the group of us, so you're invited. You parted from the bunch to position yourself right in front of the stunned Baxter. He didn't flinch as you draped the white feather boa over his shoulders. Baxter's mouth opened wordlessly as he stared down at your face. He tentatively lifted up a hand, brushing his fingers against the feathers surrounding him. He had to check that it was truly there. Then, with eyes still wide, a delighted grin grew across Baxter's face. "I must admit, I didn't suspect it at all. I never should have doubted your abilities to throw a surprise party." Terry, Randy, and Cove crowded around the two of you to reform the group with the newest member. "Didn't I tell you the best way to have something be a real surprise is if you do it all at the last second, so no one even has a chance to put it together?" Yes, you did. I suppose there are some advantages to the strategy after all. And so the summer soiree commenced. You hung around the almost barren snack table. It was the only piece of furniture left behind from Randy's party. There weren't even chairs, mostly. Miranda had joked that Baxter could take the throne now if he wanted to. That part came with the room. He courteously declined. Dinner was simple, more sandwiches and salad. It was also a mostly quiet meal, but that's exactly what was needed. At 7 a.m. that morning, you'd left to prepare for Miranda's birthday. 12 hours later, you were still there, lazily enjoying one another's company after an extremely long day couldn't be overappreciated. Cove wiped crumbs from his mouth after he was done eating and addressed Baxter without being spoken to first for a change. There's dessert for you too, a slice of cake and one of the cupcakes. Thank you. I'd like to try the cake Terry made, but I've had quite enough of the cupcakes. That's fair. That's valid as hell. Fair enough. He was well acquainted with the confections, even if he'd never taken a single bite. Then, can I have it? Please do. Don't forget the chocolate fountain. Terry jumped in with another sampling suggestion. The contraption was Baxter's second, arguably more formidably, enemy of the event. It's still going strong. You've got to try it. However, he chuckled. All right, if you insist. Aw, it's so cute. For all the trouble it caused, the fountain had indeed kept flowing even as the night went on and dozens of treats passed through it. That was the only part of the equation that was in good shape, however. The platter of goodies alongside it had become a plate of baddies. What remained was some snapped pretzel fractions, scraps of fruit, and mostly the full-sized granola bars. Cookies and marshmallows had, to the shock of no one, been more popular choices. Those were gone long before the first party had even finished. Not one to complain, Baxter plucked up a granola bar and slipped one end into the rippling sheet of liquid chocolate that he'd melted himself. Cove, meanwhile, wasn't going to settle for that, despite being the one who brought them. He tore off a piece of his second cupcake of the night and stuck it into the fountain. His fingers got coated as well. Baxter languidly watched Cove make a careless mess. You know, food that crumbly will get into the chocolate and... never mind. Smirking, Baxter removed his bar from the fountain and flipped around. He leaned his backside against the edge of the table. What does it matter if the chocolate clumps? I wouldn't care if the fountain broke at this point. The point was punctuated with a satisfied bite into the chocolate-covered granola bar. It's good. No matter how definitively he made the statement, it was hard to tell if he was being serious or not. Yeah, I love this. I think this little after-party thing, or the separate party, whatever you want to call, I think this is really cute. You know what? Go for one of the granola bars too. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little curious. If cookies were the life of the chocolate pool parties, granola bars were the wallflowers hiding in a corner and wondering why they even came. Sure, it wasn't ideal, but it was fun. When the slim pickings became non-existent pickings, even the most daring among you had to call it quits on the fountain. Terry used the final chance to fulfill her most base urge, sticking her tongue directly into the stream of chocolate. Okay, I am Terry though, because I'm telling you, one day that'll be me. Miranda giggled and squirmed at how wrong it was. Terry gave a thumbs up. Putting your body parts into that contraption was recommended, apparently. All right. Terry cleaned herself off before making a new announcement. This isn't a birthday celebration, so you know what that means? It's not weird to have slow dancing as our main event. Pardon me? Dancing? This party of 5 is going to have slow dancing. Baxter questioned what he was hearing, not in a fun, this is too good to be true way, but in a tone that was almost accusatory, like you'd gotten him in a trap after all. I'm beginning to get the impression that this impromptu event is less for the entire group and more for me specifically. Once again, the group became divided between the 4 of you together and the one outsider, and as always, it was self-imposed. Baxter's arms folded as his gaze wandered over each of the faces around him. He was searching for a reason. You wanted to know Baxter's motivation for his own behavior. Well, yeah, it mostly is. That was the plan. But why? You didn't have to. He insisted immediately, defensively. The chilly reception didn't hamper Terry whatsoever. Perhaps she took him for being shy in the spotlight. She wandered away and hit the music, setting it to a lovely tune with a gentle pace. A nice enough song could smooth out any of the bumps. Baxter remained defiant, waiting motionless for a response to what he said. He couldn't and wouldn't accept the situation. Under that kind of pressure, Miranda glanced at the floor, and Cove sheepishly turned from Baxter to look at you for guidance. I see. That was enough of a hint for all to be clear. You were the planner for this party. Of course that's how it happened, was what you read in his expression. Baxter no longer traded stares among the crowd. He didn't see anyone else in the room except for you. Surprise again? He took in a breath through his nose and curled his ringed fingers into a fist. You'd have to take the initiative this time. For the second time that night, you approached Baxter. Then you offered him your hand. Wanna dance? A crease in his brows cracked Baxter's hardened expression. It was frustrating and wonderful to him, and you had your suspicions on why he struggled with the gesture. No, he just knows that I'm the reason we did the party thing for him, and he's not, super happy about it, but it'll be fine. Him struggling. Delicately, and still without another word, he accepted. For the moment, Baxter could let go of his concerns by holding on to you. Hand in hand, you walked into the center of the lit-up floor. The room was so quiet you could make out bits of the conversation the others were having. Terry offered to dance with either Randy or Cove. Both of them refused with varying degrees of nervousness. Terry could only laugh. She knew it was coming. Out of the normal group, you might have been bold enough to do that with her, but you already had a partner. But that meant you had the whole space to yourselves. Though at first, you could only prompt Baxter into swaying in place. With time and encouragement, the dance moved onward until Baxter swept around the room with you like the pro he was. You were able to move with him nicely. He kept his steps at an approachable level. When the song ended, the enchantment both of you were under vanished. Baxter settled himself enough to speak to you. So, he murmured pleasantries a hair's breadth away from your face. Was the birthday party a success? Everyone had a great time, especially Miranda. Baxter's lips quirked. It must have been a relief to know for certain that nothing fell apart once he made his retreat. I'm gonna go with thank you for everything. My pleasure. Then a playful lilt rang in his tone. Oh, and before I forget to mention it, I am thrilled to attend another summer soiree with you. Me too. His eyes closed and placed one foot back, only for a second. He thought better of that and brought it back in line with his other leg. I am not lying when I say this is one of the grandest occasions I've attended. Confessed by a man wearing a $2 feather boa and standing in the final remains of a birthday party thrown together in 2 days. That scene had to be a far cry from the formal events you were certain he'd attended throughout his life before coming to Sunset Bird. Yet, you didn't doubt the earnestness of his words for a second. I apologize if I did not give that impression initially. I hate to be a bother, and you went to so much trouble, you'd nearly forgotten you hadn't let go of each other after the dance until Baxter's grip around your hand tightened. It doesn't matter now. The effort is sincerely appreciated. In a way, Terry had been right. Even Baxter Ward could be bashful in certain regards. That was okay. You were just glad he enjoyed himself in the end. You know what? Fuck it. You kissed him. This is the time. You were sleepy and relieved and could finally just be happy with your charming suitor. He accepted the affection readily this time, pressing into you sweetly. Thank you for inviting me to your party, Blake. The blush, fucking stop. His eyes were still dancing, even if his feet had stopped, but his words carried the weight of finality with them. There was a joy he found in the fleetingness of it all. Just like this might be your last big party with Terry, Miranda, and Cove, it could very well be the first and final time for Baxter, too. He'd accepted that as a certainty. Baxter was always so ready to leave, with parties and the town on the whole. He treated everything that came his way as temporary, to merely be embraced while he could and then to freely release. Even though you knew that, even if he'd never done anything differently, you hoped he would keep having a reason to return as long as you reached out to him. Oh my goodness. There we go, buddies. That was a long one. We're gonna save real quick before I fuck anything up. And on that note of an almost 4-hour stream, and with the slight headache I feel coming up, and the fact that I have to pee again, we are going to keep the after stream chat very short. That means tomorrow we will be doing And Then Summer Ended, which will put us in perfect setup for the Saturdays where we do all the endings. Yeah, I'm torn. I think it's between Mountain and Planning that are my favorite. I genuinely like those. It's a tie between those two. I love them all. But yeah. On that note, I am going to wrap up here and go rest my poor vocal cords because yikes, not almost 4 hours of just reading back to back is fine. Y'all, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed this stream, and I hope you enjoy whatever you get up to with the rest of your night. I will see y'all sometime tomorrow. And as always, take care of yourselves. Be kind to yourselves. It's hard being a person. You're doing the best you can. I am proud of you. And don't forget to live a life that pisses off a bigot. Bye, y'all.